Hey, I'm on the edge of my seat here, back again with another brand new video, and today I'll be no damaging all the main ops in Peace Walker on the PSP while getting S rank and ghosting every single mission possible. Again. I've no damaged Peace Walker before 4 years ago, but back then I did it on the PS3. Now I'm doing it on the PS Vita. Though this is a PSP game, but on the PS Vita I have a second analog stick I can use to control the camera. I also hacked the PS Vita in order to record this gameplay. My previous video was around 2 hours and 43 minutes. This video is 2 hours and 55 minutes. Both of these videos are nearly 3 hours long. Why would I want to do it a second time? It's because I'm not 100% satisfied with that original video I released 4 years ago. Peace Walker is generally a very easy game, but I think I made it too easy for myself by relying on somewhat cheap strategies. So I always wanted to push this game's level design and enemy placements to the max by refusing to hold up enemies, refusing to knock them out from afar. I have to get past everyone without knocking them out and with very few distractions. Sappy Joker Gaming's Ghost Run really inspired me to give it a go myself, though he had a much stricter set of rules for ghosting. This is kind of a casual ghost run. My qualifications for ghosting the missions is to not touch the enemies. Don't knock them out, don't hold them up, don't shoot them. I'll use some distraction. Sometimes they'll see me, sometimes I'll create a certain noise to lead them away from something, but I will not be touching them. I'm going to leave them all on the field. They're all going to be players, and I have to reach my objective without interfering with any of that. And if that sounds interesting to you, keep watching for another 2 hours. And okay, let me do quick maths here. 53 minutes. The bigger length of this version of the video is due to my strategy. Some of the levels take me longer to complete. And also another thing is I think the loading screens might take longer. So for this area, we run all the way to the middle. We get to this part. And then we have to cross past this guy once he flips around there. He's going to turn on the right, so you have to stay on his left. Not every single enemy is going to turn to the right. Some of them turn to the left, and you kind of have to know ahead of time which way they're going to turn to get by them. But there's also a way to get by them if you stand on either side if you're diagonal. And I'm going to show this off in a later mission. For the first area, that path shouldn't be too hard to follow. But another restriction I'm putting upon myself is that in that first Peace Walker no damage, I wore the sneaking suit for nearly the entire video. And what the sneaking suit does is that it makes your footsteps completely quiet no matter what you're doing. And for most of the games, I think that would be like a godsend. Like in Snake Eater, Guns of the Patriots, Phantom Pain. I really appreciate it there. But in Peace Walker, I think it might just break the game clean in half. And I actually prefer making noises with my footsteps because I have to be more careful. I have to walk slowly. And the strategy you come up with because you're making loud footsteps makes the game more engaging to play. And well, I'd probably maybe say that about Snake Eater and the Phantom Pain as well. Because I kind of have this bug that I want to replay every single Metal Gear Solid to do a ghost run or to do the run better. And some of my previous Metal Gear Solid videos, I sometimes take damage in areas which I thought were impossible. But then I learned years later from watching speedruns or other videos that no, it's not impossible. I just didn't know the strategy or I didn't try hard enough. Now, my original Peace Walker video, I did no damage every single part of the game. I find that the portable Metal Gear Solids, or just the Metal Gear Solids with a big subtitle like Portable Ops, Peace Walker, the Phantom Pain, those games are fully possible to no damage. But some of the other games, some of the more numbered ones like Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, 4, they also have subtitles, but I find it more memorable that they're 1, 2, 3, and 4. And one thing which I don't like about the game is these QTE sequences because they go into your ranking. So if you mess up any of those button prompts, you're going to mess up your ranking at the end of the mission. S ranks you get by causing 0 alerts, by never being slow. You have to be very, very quick, and you have to have 10 out of 10 cutscene interaction whenever it shows up. So here is the footstep tech. This tech is very bizarre, but also it only appears if I'm wearing the jungle fatigue outfit. And I will be doing this entire run with the jungle fatigue outfit. That's another one of the restrictions to pretty much get a little bit more fun out of this game. Because with the sneaking suit and with the smoke grenades and with holding up every single enemy in the area, I think I kind of optimized the fun out of this stealth experience. And I just want to do a run where I don't do that so I can show off more interesting gameplay and show a way to play this game that's a fun stealth romp instead of a stealth romp that breaks under the weight of a a hummingbird. Just saying footstep tech makes zero sense, so I really should explain what it is. But for this area, we're going to just run straight across the water here, and that should work, but sometimes the enemy will kind of catch a glimpse of you. The enemy's going to catch a glimpse of me right now, but that pretty much like works to kind of speed through these areas. One thing about ghosting in this game, and well, honestly, just playing this game in general, is just that you have to be very fast about things. So a lot of my strategies, I'm just going in, I'm going in. But I do need to elaborate on what footstep tech means. Basically, what the footstep tech is that I walk loudly on one side of the enemy, then I roll to the other side before he catches sight of me. I don't fully understand the potential of this, but it does help me speed up the runs of the levels. Also, once the enemy is distracted by the footstep noise, you should be able to do a full sprint without the enemy caring, but I only realized this in Main Ops 23, and every other time I did it beforehand, and afterwards, I kind of did a slow walk away from the enemy so I can kind of run outside of their field of being able to hear me. Now, when I said that I'm going to ghost this game, sometimes I will have to break that because the mission like objectives go against ghosting. Here, you have to take out all the enemies. By take out, you can kill, you can knock them out, you can hold them up, and I'm going to stick for holdups. But the way I want to make this area interesting is that I'm going to refuse to use the trank gun. I'm not going to shoot these enemies from across the field, from these safe little cover pieces. I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to hold them up, and I'm going to be sneaky with the jungle fatigue closed, which forces me to be quiet when I get there. The roll is a quiet maneuver. So if you roll into an enemy, it makes no noise. So the way I'm doing this is I hold up one guy over there, and then the other guard there is going to notice the enemy that's on the ground. They're going to rush in on them, and when they rush in on them, I hold them up there, and then I get the drop on the one enemy here. Then I'm going to get the one drop on the enemy here. There's going to be an enemy guarding this door. We're going to get the... I love this roll that I'm about to do right now. Look at that. Boom! Like right in their face. Like even with ghosting, I have made the game harder. I am having more fun. These enemies are still dumb as bricks. And like there is a charm to it, but like these are some of the dumbest enemies I've faced in the Metal Gear Solid saga. It's not just that they're dumb. They're very slow to react to anything. So... You know, a lot of the other enemies in Metal Gear Solid tends to have pretty dumb enemies, but I'm thinking like in Metal Gear Solid 2, they're pretty quick to react and they call their radio. Like in the other games, like they always have these counterattacks, but here they are the slowest to go to alert. You can basically just run straight up to them, slam them to the ground, hold them up, and they'll like just be stuck forever. And also when you hold them up, they tend to be there for a really long time. I think one thing which I don't like about this objective is I wish the game forced you to actually climb up into this like boathouse. But instead, you just kind of take out the enemies and you kind of wait around. I did like stand around and create a really nice image with like the river. Well, I say really nice image, and these are like the PSP graphics. It's very pixelated. The screen tearing is obnoxious. And maybe by the end of this video, I'll have some argument about how the PSP graphics has effects which were lost in the transition to the HD port on PS3. I have no such argument. I haven't looked too closely at the comparisons between both games, so I'm not going to make that argument. I had some arguments like that when in my Metal Gear Solid 2 All Dog Tags video, because my original Metal Gear Solid 2 No Damage was on PS3, and the new No Damage I did where I collected all the dog tags I did on the original PS2, which was a 4:3 aspect ratio. Some of the effects like the fire and lasers and blood were more prominent in the original PS2, so I didn't want to mention that, but... Off the top of my head, I can't think of any such thing on the original PSP, aside from the fact that I think the 20 FPS makes the animations look a little bit more natural, while at 60 FPS, the jankiness of the animations I think is more prominent, because the game is just that smooth that whenever something is like a little bit like stilted, it just pops out a lot more. But when it's at 20 FPS, you're kind of already struggling with how shaky the game's camera is, and you know how cinematic the game's frame rate is. You know, it's so cinematic, it's even lower than the cinematic frame rate, which is 24 FPS. This is 20 FPS. Oh man. The reason I recorded this on the PS Vita is because I hacked my PS Vita, and I was having so much fun with the concept of a hacked PS Vita and the fact that I could record off of it, that I just kind of felt inclined to play Peace Walker on it again. I started an... Oh man. It's pretty chilly today, so I got a bit of a cold, bit of a mucus thing. I'm gonna sound like this for the rest of the video. You just kind of go past these enemies like this. Because once you cross that threshold there, they're never going to come back to look at you. If you cross the threshold at an earlier point, the enemy's actually going to cross in on there, and it's not going to be good. I'm going to drop that voice now. But yeah, like the extra amount of loading you have to do between areas is a little bit obnoxious at points, but the reason I played this on the PS Vita is because I just wanted to play this on the go. Like, I was playing this near the end of the year while I was still kind of editing my Metal Gear Solid 2 videos, but every now and then when I wasn't editing those videos, I was just kind of playing this on the go. I was on the road. I've done like 8 to 9 hour road trips near the end of the year, and I got a lot of time to play this game. Though I wouldn't recommend playing it in the sun because the sunlight just kind of blocks the screen and it's kind of hard to see. Something which amazes me about the Game Boy Advance is the fact that there's certain models. See, here I do the footstep tech. I make a really loud noise. I do a roll before he sees me, and then he's like investigating that, and it somehow works. And it has to be very specific because, you know, sometimes if you mess up the timing, the enemy will catch you while you're rolling. If you mess up the positioning, you might roll into the enemy, which just kind of ruins the whole thing. And the reason I want to do the footstep tech there is because if I don't do it, what I have to do is basically just kind of like stay behind the enemy, wait for him to get to this point, and it's just really annoying. And also, this enemy is really annoying because he's never ever going to turn around until the other guy makes his way here. So I am going to cause a distraction just so I can quickly get past this guy. And whether he turns to the left or right, I guess kind of depends slightly on the positioning. Most of the time when I threw the magazine there, he turns that way. But if you throw the magazine slightly differently, he might turn another way. So that's a bit of an annoyance you could run into. But that bridge section, like, doing that quickly is a nuisance, and I was trying to find ways to not use distractions and not do this and not do that, but the best way I found was doing what I did there to get by quickly, but not cheat the game by holding enemies up, but I did use a magazine as a distraction. Also, since I'm entering these areas with the jungle fatigue, I'm also entering with very limited equipment because if I'm going to be ghosting, I'm not going to be shooting anything. I'm going to try to use as little distractions as possible. Yeah, for this area, I will be doing a little bit of waiting. I'll just kind of stay by that bush, wait for that enemy to cross, and then we're basically good to go through here, except there's one more enemy waiting for us near the end. See, there, right there. There's that enemy there. So we're just going to wait for him to kind of do his little turn, cross by, and then we're going to go past him. I'm also going to try to avoid using the love box too much. I'm not going to completely avoid it. And also, there will be times where I use the love box in really fun ways, not just for hiding, but also for speed tech. And some of the boss fights, the way I use the love box has a lot of uses, and I'm going to get into that later. But since we are on the PS Vita or PSP, if I was playing on the PSP, I wouldn't have a second analog stick, so I wouldn't be able to like move the camera as like freely as I could on the PS Vita. And also, I just like the PS Vita is a much more comfortable console for me than the PSP. Like the thumbsticks also just feel better to use on the PS Vita. So even like basic movement, I think, just works better on the PS Vita compared to the PSP. Especially since movement is important because in order to walk quietly near your enemy, you have to like slightly move the thumbstick, not like press it all the way. So you need to have like some precision with the way you handle the game, handle the console. And that is easier to do when you're playing with an entire PS3 or Xbox 360 controller. Now, which one is easier to do with the Xbox 360 or the PS3? I'm not sure. So yeah, the strategy here is I kind of do like a little V thing where I cross here, I cross there, then I'm going to go back in here to get like, you know, past the area and go to my objective. And another thing I want to do for this run is rescue every prisoner I come across. And in some missions, that complicates the mission a lot. But I get a lot more out of it. But the prisoners, sadly, are not really a forced objective. They're very, very optional, but since they are here, I decided to kind of make them a mainstay of this ghost run, because not only will I be sneaking past all the enemy, I'll be rescuing every single person who might need rescuing, which requires more sneaking, which makes the game more interesting to play through. And here, like, look at this. Like, I mean, ghosting creates these little fun opportunities where you sneak past the enemy, like, just, you know, like, neck and neck. If you're just holding up enemies and throwing smoke grenades to pretty much, like, incapacitate them, it's like cutting off the legs off a dog. Actually, it's like cutting off the legs off of anyone. Everyone needs their legs. So, yeah, I mean, if you time it the way I time it, you can basically just run past this guy. This guy has a pattern where when he's going to that door, he's going to go in front of that door and he's going to turn around to look outside of him. But if you cross through this area before he turns around, then boom, you cross the area and you're pretty much good to go. But since I am playing on the PS Vita, PSP, so on and so forth, I like to go over the separate control styles that you have. So I'm using the Hunter controls. And if you're using the Hunter controls, to flip your aim from the left to right, you know, kind of like invert it from like aiming to the right or aiming to the left, what you have to do is you have to press precise aiming and the original camera controls. What is precise aiming? Basically, when you aim your gun, hold down the right button and then press the D-pad, and that'll flip your aim from the left to right. Precise control also makes your normal movement, like the left thumbstick, into the aiming control, which would normally be handled by the D-pad, or on the PS Vita, the right thumbstick. So it's kind of got like the Hunter style's kind of got like a Resident Evil 4 thing going on, where you can kind of just stop in your tracks and just aim with the same stick that you move. You did that with Resident Evil 4. Well, Resident Evil 4, you couldn't move and aim at the same time. And that precise aiming, I don't really make as much use of it as I should have, because it really does feel nice to be able to like move the camera with the same stick that you move without like without disturbing your movement too much. But what throws me off about this is that the Hunter style seems to be the only one with the ability to do precise aiming. Like, let's talk about those other styles. But before I talk about those other styles, I mean, this is the first vehicle boss fight. And the main story of this game, the main ops, it only has 3 of these. The extra op has like 40 of these, and they become so obnoxious by the end. But here, it's a pretty cool encounter, and I'm going to try to play it as naked as possible. You know, not use the love box as much, only hold up here, jungle fatigue, you know, Fulton everyone, and there's not going to be that many enemies, so I'm going to have enough Fultons to get everyone. But once you don't have enough Fultons to get everyone, you have to kind of come up with some pretty unusual strategies to clear the competition without causing any kills yourself, or without any kills being added to your scoreboard. But yeah, in the beginning, I kind of just run all across the map, and I just kind of hold up all these guys, and now I'm waiting for the next group to spawn in, and once they spawn in, I'm going to hide behind something. This is the easiest of the vehicle boss fights because the enemies always have to spawn in from behind. The previous times I've done this boss fight, I would just spam smoke grenades, and I feel like for this one, it's not really necessary. Like, I mean, the first time these guys come out, you don't even have to, like, get away from them. You can kind of stay on the right because most of them are going to be on the left. And then you get to set it up like this. Literally just boom, boom. And also, I'm going to try to set this up in a way where I don't have to, like, CQC these guys. I just want to hold them up and then like Fulton them later on. My strategy is already like, you know, bearing fruit because the tank just ran over its own guy and killed him. So if the tank does that, it doesn't count as your kill. So you want to set up these enemies in such a way when you hold them up that when the tank goes on its path, it will run over its own guys. But to be fair, for this boss fight, you don't necessarily have to do that because you'll have enough Fultons to get everyone. But some of the later missions, you're not really going to have enough. Actually, when it comes to main ops, there's only one where you won't have enough unless you like have fully upgraded Fultons, and that's the tank one. Because the helicopter one, there's actually like extra packages around the map that will allow you to pretty much be able to kidnap everyone, and it's awesome. And also the helicopter one has methods of getting rid of the enemies without it counting as your kill that are more useful than the ones in this level and the tank level. See, there we go, boom, I used like precise aiming, I pressed the D-pad, and now I flip that. Now, how you switch your aiming in like the shooter mode or the action mode, I don't know, because I played this Hunter. And here, I'm hiding behind this little thing and just getting my shots in from there. So yeah, like landing shots on this guy after he stopped here is probably one of the most annoying things, because the aiming in Peace Walker is very stiff and doesn't feel right. And I swear the reticle sucks. Like, you know, it tends to capture the enemy most of the time, but sometimes they'll be like right in the middle of the reticle and you don't land any shots and it's miserable and I hate it. And also, aiming and moving at the same time is so awkward, especially when trying to hit that one tiny target of the captain. But you can use cover to your advantage like I did there to pretty much get rid of him. And also, when I'm talking about my limited loadout, the level of weapons also counts because I'm playing on New Game Plus, basically. Like, I beat the whole game, I got the true ending, and then I'm revisiting these missions, but I'm adjusting my loadout to be pretty underpowered for ghosting, you know? Like, I'm not using the sneaking suit, I'm not using the swim trunks, you know, like, all the weapons I'm using, I'm holding my assault rifle, like, throughout nearly this entire run, and I only learned this later, but the assault rifle actually makes your camo worse. If you switch over to, like, you know, your tranq gun, your camo gets better. So, you know, if you want to have the best camo possible, just keep that in mind. Anyways, let's talk about those 3 different control schemes for Peace Walker on the PSP. You have the shooter type, the action type, and the hunter type. In shooter type, you aim with the L button while firing with the R button, and you move the camera with the face buttons while your actions are slotted on the D-pad. You know, like takedowns, climbing stuff, using the Fultons, that's on the D-pad. In the action type, oh, also I think on the D-pad, it's also slotted. That's how you change your inventory. I think pressing like left and right, that's how you change your inventory there. In the action type, you reset the position of the camera with the L button, kind of like a Zelda thing. And you aim with the R button. You kind of start aiming with the R button. You control the camera with the D-pad, while the face buttons do the actions. And the strategy here is pretty much just run through this section as quickly as possible, do those rolls, follow the same path I'm doing, and you should be just fine. And it's funny that doing this same exact path works for the Zadornov mission. I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself, but like I've ran through that Zadornov mission so many times that like this area is just like ingrained in the back of my mind. But anyways, back to the control schemes. So in Hunter type, the L and R buttons handle inventory management. The D-pad handles camera movement, while the face buttons manage actions again. For example, triangle aims your weapon, but the unique action in Hunter type is the precise shot. While aiming, hold down the R button to make the left stick, which normally handles your movement, into camera control. I've already said this, but I'm just going to repeat it. It's just that it is really nice. But once again, I don't exactly need it because I'm playing on the PS Vita. I think the Hunter style was so appealing to me because I could control the camera on the right stick. If I wasn't playing on the PS Vita, I think I might have preferred the shooter style or like the action style, depending. But I guess I'd have to test that out and play on the original PSP. But I just really like how the PS Vita feels to control better. So yeah, there is a sniper in this area. There's 2 enemies. And if you follow the path that I took there, you should be able to reach the prisoner no problem. Though it should be noted that playing on the PS Vita, I do think feels better to play, but using the second analog stick as a camera normally is still pretty awkward because the inputs aren't being translated like, you know, through analog means or manual means. It's digital means, and I don't fully understand what that means, but the camera control on the right stick is kind of fake and it's just mimicking pressing the buttons. So whenever you press that stick left or right, the movement is a bit stilted. It's a bit awkward. I made it better by hacking my PS Vita and installing like a patch which gives me a bunch of cheats for my game and better camera control that's more analog and true to like the systems and feel of the game. And this was made by a user called The Official Flow. They've made most of the hacks for the PS Vita, and without their hacks, I wouldn't be able to record this gameplay. So I had to go past that guy, then I like to hide behind this wall. And I think one of the things which makes these enemies the dumbest in the series possible is their sightlines. Their sightlines are so short. Like, they do still have some of the stuff from like Metal Gear Solid 2, you know, like if you're slightly in front of their blue cone of vision, they'll become curious. They'll be like, huh? What's that? But you have to be really close to the blue cone of vision for that to activate. But their blue cone is smaller than most of the other games. And I guess another thing which kind of like accelerates this easiness is that there is no difficulty select. There's like the one standard difficulty across the entire game, and the only thing that gets harder is if you do harder missions. So here I'm trying to find Chico, which is in one of these blue doors, but it's kind of random which door he's going to be in. And, you know, if you keep messing this up and you don't know what you're doing, you could very easily get caught by the enemy, or you could very easily go over time. But I somehow was able to check like 1 to 2 to 3 doors. I forget exactly how many I check, and still made it in time for an S rank and did a lot of cool sneaking, and I think that's really cool. I mean, I guess like the one way to get around the randomness of where Chico could be is to just plan a strategy where you just touch every single door in the area regardless of where he might be. And, you know, eventually you will get Chico. You know, like you learn all the enemy patterns in a way where you'll cross between all of them with never getting noticed, but still touching every single door. So you get to hear the person pissing, you get to hear the person taking a bath, you get to hear Santa Claus, and you get to find Chico. I did not do that, but I did check a couple of doors, kind of showing that this event is a bit random. Chico can be randomly placed in either of these rooms, and it always keeps you on your toes. I think this amount of randomness is pretty nice. Some of the randomness that appears later on in this game can be rather aggravating. And if you're a bit confused when I'm talking about like PS Vita hacks and whatnot, I'm actually going to put a link in the description to a Reddit post, which will give you more clarity and information on this sort of stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do here, and that scares me because I really want to know what strategies I'm going to take. Oh, I'm actually going to use the love box to take a shortcut. So you can use the box to take shortcuts every now and then. So if you don't use the love box to pretty much like cross over this part here, you're going to have to backtrack through a previous part of the previous mission instead of just immediately going to this little storage house here. And these areas, when I'm just playing the game normally, I thought were kind of lame, but now that I have to ghost them, they get pretty interesting with the way I have to time things, and also, okay, they're still kind of easy. Like, not this one, but the one afterwards is, like, ridiculously easy because it's an area with 2 floors, and it's, like, understaffed. It's, like, only 2 to 3 enemies. It might only be 2 enemies, and they don't really cover any, like, important sections. This part can be rather difficult because you got these 2 enemies who are guarding this part here, and then you have a long stretch of road, And then, not sure if it's in this mission or the Zadornov mission, you have someone in the watchtower who you need to be really, really aware whether or not they're looking at you or looking away. If they're not in the watchtower, then I guess it doesn't really matter. But and also there's this guy here, and then there's these people upstairs. But the great thing about the people upstairs there is that once the first guy who's like going across the crossway that's vertical and upstairs, I don't know what the fuck to call it. Once this guy turns around, you basically just make a mad dash all the way to the next area and you're good to go. But you do have to wait for this guy to pretty much cross there. But then it's a mad dash and the people aren't going to see you as long as you just keep running and running and running and running. And you don't take it slow, because if you take it slow, you lose these opportunities to slip past the enemy. So you kind of have to take some risks. You have to experiment to see exactly when you can rush, when you can't rush. But if you can rush, you should rush every single time in order to be more clear on that S rank. And this mission gets complicated because it has a little like boss fight at the end, a little stealth boss fight. Which, well, you can't ghost that boss fight, but you can do it in a way that's cooler than just sniping them from a distance or throwing smoke grenades at them. Like, the way I did it, I'm actually pretty proud of. Like, this area is really cool. I love the way how you can hang up upstairs, but it's so underpopulated with enemies that there's like no threat whatsoever. Like, this sort of area in Metal Gear Solid 2 would be a nightmare to navigate, because like on the hardest difficulty, the enemy sight lines would be so like far-seeing that just like stepping like the wrong way in this room or standing in the entrance for too long, an enemy's gonna ambush your position. But here, I'm like walking across huge like, you know, slabs of the area and the enemies barely notice me. And I just feel like it wasn't really meant to be that way, because I love the look of that area. I love the verticality, but there's not much to do there. I do think the revisiting that area during the Zadornov missions, they put a couple more enemies there, and the fact that there's 2 prisoners and the locations of where those 2 prisoners are, in conjunction with the way how the rest of the mission works, does make going to that area more interesting. While here, it's kind of nice, but also like a little bit too easy compared to some of the other levels in this game. I gotta say, going for the ghost run, I think really activates like the great stealth pacing of this game, because an issue with some of the other Metal Gear Solids have is that the second half, they let go of their stealth gameplay and go for action set pieces, while here, this game is a lot more consistent about the stealth buildup. Like, this game has a 5-chapter structure, and the first 4 chapters do a really nice thing where, with its sneaking missions, like, you know, chapter 1, it starts off with maybe some of the more easier stuff. Actually, the beginning of chapter 1, it's actually some of the harder stealth missions compared to the beginning of chapter 2, 3, and 4, but it's easier than the stuff that comes afterwards. Like this one requires a little bit of know-how if you want to ghost it. If you're not ghosting these missions and you're just sniping the guys, throwing smoke grenades, the difficulty curve isn't really felt as much. But when you're ghosting these missions, the difficulty curve of each chapter is really, really nice, because it just escalates, escalates, escalates. And then you hit that next chapter and it goes back down again, because you're kind of being introduced to new mechanics and like new environments and kind of like a new way of doing things. So it gets easy again, but then it starts building up that difficulty curve again and again and again. And then you reach chapter 3, and it kind of starts off a little bit harder than the other ones, but it's still a little bit easier because you can kind of cheat it in ways if you don't ghost. And then chapter 4 doesn't really have a curve, because chapter 4 only really has like the one big sneaking level, but it's the hardest one by far, so that progression is really nice. Chapter 5 is kind of like more extra ops, so it's not really as smooth. But the main campaign of chapters like 1 and 4, really, really good stuff. And I think I'll gush about it more as I'm coming along here. But what I'm trying to do here is, I go to the left, I wait for that one enemy to come near me, then I hold them up, and then I run all the way here when they're not looking at me. And I'm going to wait for all these enemies to be like kind of placed in the exact like domino formation for me to just hold them up one by one by one. Like, I wait for that enemy to turn around, and boom, I go in and I go, freeze, freeze, freeze. And then by the time I'm done with all that, this enemy still hasn't turned around. I'm going to do a little roll. I'm going to make him freeze. And then boom, I clear this out. No smoke grenades, no trank gun, no holding up. I mean, I'm holding up the enemy, but no CQC. I did it stealthy as hell. And I think one of the most fun things about doing a ghost run is just how quiet the game is. You know, like, the music never ramps up because you're never doing anything to ramp up the intensity. You're ghosting, you're going past enemies, you're not, like, knocking them to the ground. So it's a pretty quiet game. And I get to take in the atmosphere a bit more, and I really appreciate that. But yeah, no, this is a fun way to end the mission. Most of the missions don't really do this. Whenever they have a big moment like that, they kind of relegate it to its own mission. But just ending it off like that, I thought that was pretty cool. And I'm just glad I found a way to ghost it. Well, I mean, it's not really ghosting because I'm interacting with the enemies, but, you know, not CQCing them, not smoke grenading them, and not like tranking them from a distance. I have to get up close and personal. I have to know their patterns, because when you're just using smoke grenades to get past them, you're ignoring their patterns. And instead of just kind of like just erasing the patterns. I had this example in one of my previous like Metal Gear Solid Ramp videos where it's like you have to solve a maze. I feel like ghosting, you actually learn the layout of the maze to find the exit, while throwing smoke grenades and holding up the enemies, instead of like, you know, learning the maze, you just start erasing the walls. You start blowing them up with like C4. I gotta talk about this fight because this is like one of the more challenging ones in the game and like one of the more technical ones, because the annoying thing with these guys is that every time you get rid of one of these soldiers, one spawns in from like one corner of the map. They don't like jump out of the tank. They like flashbang themselves into existence. So if you were to take these guys out like one by one, they're going to start spawning in one by one, and if they spawn in from like a place which isn't to your advantage, it could really screw you over. What I like to do is hide behind this pillar, but I've had times where like the enemy will spawn like right behind me, but most of the time they're going to spawn in either from that corner of the map or this corner of the map, and I might actually blind you in like 2 seconds. Once this guy like reaches this section, you might actually get blinded. Yeah, you see, you get blinded. They literally flashbang you. So you take out one guy will spawn in. You take out 4 guys will spawn. Also, if the tank runs into a guy, but you haven't like, you know, put him down on the ground or CQC'd him or stunned him or put him to sleep, he takes no damage. Like you just saw there, the tank just kind of gave him a friendly nudge. So once they're in this position, I like to go in and start holding everyone up. Because you also need to be aware when these guys are going to turn around in weird ways. Because they can, there's like stop, still, do, and they'll like readjust their position to be more defensive. And there, I ran too fast. And when I was running too fast, he turned around, but I somehow held him up before he was able to react and, you know, get alerted. So what I want to do here is actually want to take out 3 of these guys, not all 4, because if I take out all 4, it's going to take way too long. And then I'm not going to be able to hide behind this cover as effectively. And there comes a point where you kind of have to be aware where they're going to spawn in from, because they could either spawn in from the other side of the map and, you know, you're blocked, you're like, you know, safe behind that part of the cover, or they could spawn in from there, and instead you have to hide here. And I just kind of had an instinct for it. I had a second instinct because it happened to me so many times. I failed the mission so many times that I realized, hold up, the guy's not coming from where I think he's coming from. It's been way too long. He should be here already. He's probably coming in from the other side of the map, so let me change my direction. So these are the sort of problems you have to like solve when you're not just spamming the love box. If you just use the love box, you can just stand behind a tank and the enemies will never question you, and the only thing you have to worry about is that when the enemies are like walking around or like running, that you're not in the middle of their path. You know, as long as you're like out of their path, you're basically hidden forever, and boom! Look at that. So this boss fight just had these like scripted sequences where the guy's just gonna start blowing the trains away. So if you're gonna choose a hiding spot, you better not make it one of the trains, because it's gonna get blown away. So yeah, once they cross here, I start holding everybody up. So see, right now, doing this is pretty fun, you know, like figuring this out. But once you start getting to the extra ops where you have to like take out like 40 of these guys, it stops being fun and starts being a fucking monotonous slog. And I gotta say something else. So, the inventory management in this game, I think another thing which makes me really like the Hunter style is the fact that inventory management is handled with the shoulder buttons. I think that's really cool. Also, you can go into settings and make it that you can swap between your last 3 used items in each inventory slot by just tapping the button. This makes, like, you know, weapon switching really, really smooth. And see, right there, the tank ran over one of his guys in a way that, you know, I don't have to use all my Fultons, because I didn't have enough Fultons to get rid of 3 guys. So throughout, like, while I was playing this mission, I didn't really plan that out. I just got really lucky that, like, those guys got ran over by the tank. I didn't really plan it too much. I didn't position them, like, that well. But, you know, they got positioned in a way where they got to, oh, whoa! And I get bonked by that little, like, tank stick. But the tank stick doesn't damage me. It's kind of funny. So I'm going to take cover behind this thin-ass pole. And what was I talking about? What was I talking about the inventory? Oh, yeah. In my original Peace Walker video, for some asinine reason, okay, so I'm going to let this pole, like, kind of, yeah, for some asinine reason, in my original Peace Walker, like, no damage, I decided to not turn on the ability to swap between your last 3 used weapons. So whenever I had to, like, change one of my guns, or, you know, one of my things in my other inventory slot, I had to hold down the inventory button and manually select it, like switching from one thing to another thing, instead of being able to, like, instantly swap on the fly with, like, a tap of a button between 3 separate items. For just one I'm like standing still so I can actually switch between them because, you know, when you open up that menu, you kind of do have to stand still. You can't really like move around. What was I thinking? Like, I could have made the game so... I mean, the console version is already easier because the camera shake isn't as bad. Camera movement is, like, a little bit more smooth. It's 60 FPS. Everything's more clear and less pixelated, so it is an easier game. But I could have made it even easier if I just turned on the option in the menu to be able to instantly swap between my weapons. Why didn't I do it? I was being stupid 4 years ago, which, hey, if I'm not being stupid now, that means I've improved, and I'll take that. I'll take that into this new year. I mentioned before that I'm going to be trying to do a majority of these missions with, like, you know, somewhat underpowered equipment. Like, I don't want to go in with, like, ridiculously, like, busted stuff from, like, the end game of Peace Walker. So, yeah, here the strategy is, you know, pretty much roll off that thing and run all the way over here, you know, speed, speed, speed. This C4 mission, it's speed, speed, speed. Like, you're able to, like, run really fast through a majority of this stuff. But when I was talking about just... Wait, what the hell was I talking about? Oh, my goodness. Weapons! Weapons! That's in my top 5 of 2025's films of the year. It's a great film. You all got to check it out. But at the end of every mission, when you're getting ranked, they also shows every single weapon you use throughout the mission. So if you want to know, like, what equipment I was using and what level that equipment was, you can see it in the menu. And that's another thing that the mission structure of Peace Walker just makes it so replayable. And I love just how flexible inventory management is. You can select to go with really underpowered stuff. You can go with overpowered stuff. You can go in with nothing. So yeah, pretty much just kind of rush all the way here, and then this guy is going to turn to the right. And I know this because I've played this so many times that I know he's going to turn to the right, so I can kind of slip by him exactly at that point, and that's how we do this mission. And then we're here at the C4 place, and I can't really ghost this thing because once I blow up the C4, everyone's gonna know that the C4 blew up. You can't do that secretly, and it's gonna cause a caution state, which isn't an alert state. It doesn't get like ranked. You know, you don't lose points for causing a caution state. But you know, the enemies do get like a little tilted. Like, yo, you just blew up like the barricade. Why would you do that? So now that I've mentioned that, I want to just shout out some YouTubers who really helped me on this journey. I've already been mentioning a couple of them. Shout out to Sappy Joker Gaming. Sappy Joker Gaming's Ghost Run of Peace Walker inspired my original Peace Walker video. So I like to hide there, I like to wait for that guy to cross. And then when we're here, the enemy behind me should be turned around. And I'm going to place a C4 there, and I'm going to climb this box. You don't need to climb this box, but I just think it looks cute when you climb the box. So I'm going to blow it up there, and this guy's either going to stand there for a really long time or just run away immediately. When he runs away immediately, you run over here, and I think if you're fast enough, you can kind of like outspeed the caution people that get spawned in, but I'm just not going to risk it. I'm going to hide behind these boxes, and hiding behind these boxes will keep you covered from these guys who are going to come in because they're going to take a really weird pattern. They don't check their corners at all. They just go straight that way. They look like fucking kangaroos. Oh, man. But yeah, no, Sappy Joker Gaming's Ghost video, he no-damaged some of the robot boss fights in those videos. That wasn't part of the ghosting, but he no-damaged those fights, and those were the only no-damages that I was aware of 4 years ago, because I type in Peace Walker no damage, nothing showed up. So I thought it was impossible, but it wasn't impossible. And Sappy Joker Gaming was one of the first examples, was maybe the first example I saw that it wasn't impossible. So I gave it a go myself, and I saw that, yeah, it's not impossible. You can do the whole game, the whole main ops that way. Now, extra ops, that's another story. I'm actually interested in creating that story, but that's going to be a much longer video. I recorded this no damage throughout 12 streams I did of this game. I had a way where I could stream Peace Walker and record at the same time using OBS's filter source record. John Hub, who's 100% of the Yakuza games, told me about that. So that's a YouTuber I had to shout out. He's not in the outline, but that filter on OBS is really useful, and I'm glad he told me how to set it up. But Sappy Joker Gaming not only inspired my old Peace Walker video, he also inspired this one. So the strategy here is you pretty much just kind of, you run, you wait by the stairs, you don't immediately go up the stairs, you have to wait for this guy to cross, because if you go up the stairs too fast, this guy sees you, and then when you get to this point, this guy's going to turn on the right, so you stay on his left, and yeah, this level is probably one of the more challenging ones. Like the bridge one, easy stuff. A lot of the challenge of this level comes from the fact that I decided to adopt really insane fast strategies. Like right now, I'm going to try to go with the love box as fast as possible to take a shortcut. I need to take this shortcut as fast as possible in order to, like, you know, bypass a certain enemy. And I'm going to use the standing invisible tech by Duran Duran. And also going here, there's a prisoner which you have to rescue. But you have to be really, really quick about this, because if you're off by 1 second, this guy's already going to be turning around. So There's not enough space to go by on his left, but he turns on his right, so you would have to go through the left, but instead you'd stand diagonally, and he doesn't see you because he has horse blinders on, because he's part horse. That human being is not a human being. It's an animal. And I appreciate it, because if he wasn't a horse, I wouldn't have been able to get past him. I'm just glad he can't run like a horse. Running like a horse, some of the boss fights do that, but the human beings, they're not capable of it. They're too slow. Another thing which makes that previous area so hard is that the love box is very finicky about where it wants to be placed. If you place it the wrong way, it's going to go and you can't get rid of it. And if you spend too much time doing that, you lose the timing, and the enemy, by the time you reach that enemy, he's going to be turned around, and you can't slip by him the way I wanted to slip by him. And to be fair, I don't necessarily have to slip by him that way. I could just wait for him to turn around, walk a bit, and then I'll slip by the other guard. But, you know, once I learned that I could slip by him because he has horse blinders on, I had to do it. And this section, I don't have to go up here. There's a shortcut which pretty much like skips this entire top section, but I wanted to record footage of me sneaking and ghosting past this top area because I think it would look cool, and I committed to it. So yeah, once you reach like that point, once the guard reaches that point, you can run, you do a roll there, but if you keep running before, like if you keep running after the roll, you're gonna get caught. Or if you run instead of doing the roll, you get caught because there's another enemy who's like overlooking everything. It's not just those two guards. Like the enemy who's overlooking anything is like one of the most like pain in the ass like parts of that mission. And yeah, like before I reach the top, I hide behind the barrel, and then I kind of like shimmy around. I wait for one guy to turn around, then I climb the stairs. But you really have to watch out for that one guard who isn't like overlooking the guns. And yeah, once you reach this section, you have to choose the right number. And if you don't choose the right number, you pretty much mess up the cutscene interaction. If you mess up the cutscene interaction, you have to do this all over again. And this is one of the harder like stealth ghosting like missions in the game. It is also the end of chapter 1. So yeah, like I mean, the nice like stealth difficulty like curve. This is like the hardest part of chapter 1, and then we have a boss fight, and after the boss fight, we de-escalate by going back to stealth, but it's not as hard because it's a new chapter. So you kind of, the game gives you time to get used to things again before it ramps up the difficulty again, and it has a really good sense of pace. I mean, Snake Eater also has a really great sense of pace, but I'm just saying that Peace Walker has it in a really nice way, in a way that Metal Gear Solid like 1 and 2 and 4 just kind of don't. Oh yeah, I'm not done shouting out YouTubers. I mean, Sappy Joker Gaming also inspired this video. My strategies are very different from his, but still, I want to ghost. I want to do like cool looking gameplay, and I want to do it on the PS Vita, on the PSP. So, you know, I have my old No Damage, which is on the PS3 at 60 FPS, 720p. And this one is PSP 20 FPS. And the video on YouTube might say 720p, but I'm pretty sure this is like 240 or like 480i or 314. Like, I don't know. There's no way this is 720p, but you know, when I'm recording on OBS, I just put 720p as a preset and just kind of went with that. And also, you have to do this mission pretty quickly. And rescuing the prisoners can complicate things. So yeah, here, the Pupa. No, but that's not, you don't call it the Pupa. You call it the Pupa. The characters in the game even call it the Pupa. And I learned this very recently, that like in this area, if you look all the way up to the ceiling, there's like this like glass, this like fucking, you know when you go to basketball games and you know you get to go to like a nice little room and it's like transparent glass, and you have a TV, that's where Huey is. You can actually see like a really low res like standee of Huey, and if you shoot near that glass, if you shoot at the glass dome, Huey like sends you like a message like, hey, stop that. But right now, I'm using weapons which I think are overpowered for this point, but they're less overpowered than the ones I used in my original video because I wanted to show off more of the things that the Pupa does throughout this fight, because in my original video, I no damaged the fight through basically like just overpowering it so hard before it could actually do anything cool. But now, I wanted to do some of the things which are kind of cool about it, and showing that even if you let this fight do some cool stuff, you can still avoid damage. So when it comes to whenever firing bullets, you just kind of have to like keep running and not stop your momentum. I say that and I stop my momentum right now, kind of proving that no, sometimes you can stop your momentum, it'll be just fine, but the general rule is you have to keep running in the same direction. If you change directions randomly, the bullets get you. And also, if the bullets curve a weird way, around a weird angle, the bullets can get you. Like here, whenever it's running like to the left on top of there, go to the right. If it's going to the right, you go to the left. That's just like a good rule of thumb to avoid the machine gun fire. And well, the electricity things are easy to avoid. And you could do a thing where you lay prone on the ground to pretty much like just have that thing run over you. But it's kind of inconsistent, or like the way the camera is set up, it always looks kind of awkward, and I don't know how to position myself, so I'm just not going to do it. And also, I mean, I only figured this out when I was like grinding this fight out to build Zeke again. But shooting the treads, I should have done that because it has a really funny animation where it's just kind of like kneeled over, and it's like, oh! It's kind of like a little doggy, the way it like kneels over. It's like very charming, but I didn't really have to do that. Yeah, once it starts dropping all these little things here, I have to destroy them because I do not want the maximum shock put at maximum. I did not want that to destroy me. And my setup here with the jungle fatigue thing, it only allows you to carry 2 weapons, so I decided to only have the law and then have my gun be the supply marker. This game, it has boss fights which have health bars which are so long, and it gives you weapons which have such little ammo. You basically have to like call in for extra ammo to pretty much like spawn in. I have to do this multiple times for a lot of the boss fights, especially on a new game, especially if it's your first time running. Like right now, I'm using a weapon that's like not that overpowered, but still overpowered enough that I don't have to call for like supply markers like that much. And what just kind of like throws me for a loop is, why is the highest level supply marker a gun? I don't want to put it in the gun slot. I want to put another gun in that slot. But if you want the highest level supply marker, well, you have to give up a gun slot to use it. And well, for this boss fight, I only really need the law. And, you know, I'll resupply the law a few times and I'm just fine and dandy. But for the actual hard boss fights, or the boss fights which actually have a lot of health, and maybe some of the boss fights in the extra ops, I want every slot to be a weapon. And I wish that, like, you know, the highest level supply marker, which gives you more supplies, wasn't a fucking gun. Why couldn't you just give me a better grenade? The grenades were fine. I mean, to be fair, I guess you could just keep rocking with the level 2 one, because, you know, if you want it to be a grenade, you're forced to use like a level 2 one. But if you want the level 3 and level 4 one, it has to be a gun, and you need to give up a gun slot. So if you have the battle suit, you could make 2 of your slots, like, you know, guns, and then the 3rd slot could be for the supplies. But, you know, if you have the battle suit, why not have 3 weapons? I'll tell you why you don't have 3 weapons, because whenever you call for extra supplies when you have 3 weapons, you sometimes only get ammo for 2 of those weapons, and it kind of like fluctuates and it's random, and I don't like it. I kind of wish that like every time I call the supply drop, when I have 3 weapons, I get ammo for those 3 weapons instead of just 2 weapons, because now it's like, I might as well just only brought 2 weapons if you're going to do this to me. I might as well not even wear the battle suit. Might as well just be in my underwear at this point. I do have to mention that I said I want to shout out some YouTubers. Note the plural connotation, more than one. So the other YouTuber I want to shout out is Nemesis Zero Gaming. He did a walkthrough of Peace Walker getting S rank and never using a healing item. However, he does take damage a lot of the time throughout the video. But the way he handled Main Ops 24 near the end of that mission showed me how to no damage it. Even though he himself didn't no damage it, he illuminated a path. Like the glorious Lightbringer, he showed me the way, and I took that road, and I was able to do my no damage in this video. Once we reach Main Ops 24, you'll see exactly what I mean, because I'll bring it up again, but shout out to him. He was a huge help for the ending of that mission. Another YouTuber I have to shout out is Darkness Fox. Darkness Fox was another YouTuber in my original Peace Walker video, which helped me out for the helicopter boss fight. And in rewatching some of his videos, he was a very useful guide for the main ops, because he has videos on every single main op, S ranking all of them. So I was checking Darkness Fox's like S ranks to see what exactly were the time requirements for each mission, because sometimes it's kind of hard to tell. Sometimes you think like a time you did was good enough for S rank, and then you get an A rank and it's like, what? You know, what? How fast do I have to be? Darkness Fox helped a lot with that, so shout out to him. But there's also some YouTubers I want to shout out who aren't related to Peace Walker. I need to shout out a YouTuber who helped me set up this PS Vita recording, like, just setup. Because once I had it set up, it's one of the easiest and most convenient setups I ever have. I literally just grab my portable console, I turn it on, I just kind of plug in 2 things, and I'm pretty much ready to go. But before I knew what to plug in, it was one of the most pain-in-the-ass processes I've ever been through in my life. Now, hacking of the PS Vita, very easy. But actually setting it up on OBS so I can actually like stream and record and get good audio from the system, that's a whole other thing. So this mission is easy. You go through like 2 areas and then it's over. And these enemies are stationary. It's very similar to like the finale of Snake Eater, where you have to like escort like Eva and the enemies are chasing you. But in one of the second areas, they're all like stationed in one area. And they're doing the same thing here, except you don't have as many enemies, you don't have camouflage, you don't have Eva, and it's like way easier to do as long as you know where everyone is placed. And there is a prisoner here, so we can have to go run here and then run all the way over there. But once you know where everyone is, you just follow the right path and it always solves itself. But I guess, so like on its own, this is a pretty lame mission, but connected to the rest of Chapter 2, it's a really easy mission just to get you, like, you know, up to speed with like a couple new mechanics, which the game is going to push further in the future missions with snipers, and like, you know, they're going to be more hidden. So I appreciate this one being really easy because it's starting the difficulty curve back at the bottom. It's good pacing. So I do appreciate that. I will say going from really easy to the fucking helicopter boss fight is a bit of a crapshoot, but when it comes to the YouTubers, I have to shout out Nagato's Revenge for his PS Vita recording tutorials. I had to look up like 3 to 4 different tutorials for the PS Vita on how to record on OBS, but Nagato's Revenge was the one that worked for me. So I really got to shout him out. Go check out his channel. So here, I'm going to play this cheap because I did this mission stealthily without using smoke grenades, you know, like ambushing the enemies, but you're never going to be fast enough to get them. So here's a great thing you can do in this mission. You can throw them off the cliff and it won't count as your kill. So if you want to save on Fultoning the enemies, you can do this. A nasty thing about the Fultons is that if you have, like, you know, fully upgraded Fultons and you enter this mission with, like, you know, Fultons which are not fully upgraded, you can't pick them up. So like right now in, like, you know, my mother base and in my like equipment screen, I could get the level 5 Fultons, but I didn't want to enter this mission with that because normally if you're playing on a new game you don't have the level 5 Fultons. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go in with the level 1 Fultons and then just pick up the extra Fultons in the map. But you can't pick up the extra Fultons in the map because they're not level 1, they're level 5 now because you upgraded them before. So instead of getting extra Fultons, I'm just going to take advantage of this strategy where I get to pretty much just send everyone like off the cliff like they're Kirby and have it not count as my kill. And I'm going to send enough people to the point that the 9 Fultons which come with the level 1 Fultons like is enough. And also I'm going to do this love box strategy where I just stand right behind the enemy and I get to hold them up like this. And I get to do this to enemies who I want to Fulton because, well, once they're on the ground, I can't throw them off unless I do like some complicated stuff where, you know, where like I, you know, put them to sleep and wake them up and then grab them and then throw them again. They're like, we're not going to do all that. These will be the enemies I, you know, kind of put some balloons on, but then the rest of these enemies I really do have to like throw off the cliff. So yeah, if you can spam smoke grenades and then grab them that way, yeah, you can just throw them off the cliff and it's real great fun. And I'm just surprised that this doesn't count as a kill. I've had similar situations in Metal Gear Solid 2, like I once punched a guard in the nuts and they were near a railing and they flipped over the railing and fell into the ocean and it didn't count as my kill as Raiden. Watch my Metal Gear Solid 2 No Damage to find out more, but my PS Vita setup, so you need OBS, you need a certain program on the PS Vita, like, you know, Hack Store. You need a certain OBS plugin, and then after that, you need a 3.5mm headphone jack, like in and out, you know, like, you know, back to back, the same jack, which you have to plug into your PC, and it has to plug into a specific port. It can't be any port. And also ran into an issue where I couldn't plug my you know, original headphones into the port where I always plug them, because if I do, it overtakes this 3.5mm jack, which I plug into my PS Vita and then plug into my PC. So instead, I bought wireless headphones, and I pretty much reroute the noise of the 3.5mm headphone, the 3.5mm, like, you know, audio cable jack to pretty much run through the headphones, and then the headphones I'm using there count as desktop audio in OBS, and that's how I recorded the audio for this game. So if you didn't know all the particulars of where to start with that and that and that, it's one of the most egregious, painful things to go through. Also, Nagato's Revenge recommended me a program called, I mean, he didn't do it personally, I'm getting a little parasocial here, but the video recommended me to download a program called FileZilla, which was just an easy way of sorting through my PS Vita files. And I've done this before with the Love Box, but pretty much you can run fast with it. And I never knew this, but pretty much I just press the X button while going with the Love Box and Snake runs faster, and it takes up your stamina meter to do so. I'm just really glad that if you keep spamming it, you don't, like, faint, because if your stamina meter runs out all the way, you do faint. You don't take damage, but you do faint. I guess this is somewhat of an improvement from Portable Ops, because in Portable Ops, if your stamina meter runs out, you die. You literally just die. It's a bit silly. Another thing the Love Box can do is that if you get too close to this helicopter, you get stunned, but if you have the Love Box equipped, you don't get stunned. You pretty much just power through it. Look at that. I can't do this normally because Snake will get, like, you know, stunned, but if you run in with the Love Box, you don't get stunned, and that's just so nice. I do not like the fact that this enemy got, like, you know, picked up by that guy. So yeah, I am kind of breaking my ghosting rules for this run, but like this run, it's really important to be fast, and if you ghost it, you're not going to be fast enough for the S rank. So I'm going to go sneaky, but I'm going to go foolish. And I guess I'm still happy with this run because I'm doing new things that I've never done before. And when it comes to positioning the Love Box, you want to position it in such a way where when the enemies drop by, you're like right behind them, but you're not like right behind them so much Because if you get too close to the enemy, your love box disappears because they jump down and they pretty much like destroy it. So the positioning has to be really exact. I kind of like, I put the camera down, I see like the leaf, I like to get like a little bit halfway past the leaf, or like just halfway through the leaf, and I just kind of stay there. And that's the position I take with the love box, but it can be tough. And it can also be tough to just, the timing for holding up the enemies can be tough, because you can't just have the weapon out and, you know, it does it automatically. It's a specific timing to hold it out when the enemies, you know, like in like position to get stunned, or they're not busy doing another animation. So this is a strategy that's very, very easy to mess up. And another thing which makes this annoying is just the helicopter, okay? You know what's great about like the armored vehicle and the tank is that they're always on the ground, you always know where they're looking, while the helicopter, you have to fucking twist the camera all the way up. And this camera system is a bit limited because it's on the PSP, it's very close in, and the helicopter gets hidden by like, you know, foliage and pixels and all that, and it's hard to see the sight lines of the fucking helicopter, so you kind of just have to guess at it or play it really, really careful, and it's not fun to like fuck around with, and it's not fun to ghost around in, and it's just really, really annoying. See, like right now, that enemy got away because I messed up my timing for freezing to everyone, but I do freeze these guys. And I'm going to break one of my rules, and the enemy is going to have a red exclamation mark over himself, but I'm going to take him out before he has that red exclamation mark. So I'm never going to do that in any other mission, but I guess in this mission I get to show off just, you know, how broken Peace Walker's enemies can be, because they can get a red exclamation mark and they'll still accept a hold. Like right now, like, I mean, sometimes like the helicopter will see me, sometimes they won't see me. And when you're just going around this area normally, it's really hard to see where the helicopter's going to be. Even if you had the Soliton radar to check out, like when I roll, I move too much, he has a red exclamation point, but then I grab him, I hold them up, and he just takes it, and then I get to do the Fulton recovery stuff. And I believe now the captain's going to show himself. This is another part about the helicopter fight that's a pain in the ass, that you have to fucking shoot the guy inside this helicopter. I think I actually took like a level 4 trank gun because I did not want to spend too much time shooting this guy. I had to deal the maximum amount of like trank damage possible, because like it's bullshit. Look at, you can barely fucking see the guy, and like, you know, aiming this thing is just a nightmare. I also brought the shield just in case it got like some machine gun fire on me, but I got so lucky that he never got alerted. It seems like he never found me while I was shooting at him, so that's one of my lucky attempts. But believe me, I've done runs where, like, you know, I don't do the smoke, I don't do the love box, I wait for the enemies to kind of like run to a certain position. I hope I save that run, because it really illuminates just how impossible it is to S-rank this mission doing the run like that. But it was kind of fun figuring it out. Not as fun as the previous ones, because the level design just isn't as cool, and the helicopter as an omnipresent fucking god that you have to be like aware of, like subconsciously aware of, or where it might be and where it might not be, is really fucking annoying to sneak around. But there is some fun to be had, and it's kind of cool to pull off, but it takes too long. And sometimes the helicopter will spawn in new enemies immediately, and sometimes it will take like 2 minutes. It'll do like the same pattern over and over and go like, huh? Where did my guys go? After 2 minutes of dicking around, and it just ruins your S rank. So it's like, there's a lot of factors here that make the helicopter the worst one out of the 3. Not impossible, and there's ways to get around it, but it's the only one where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the cheese method, I'm going to do the smoke grenades, I'm going to throw them off the cliff, I'm going to do the love box. The other ones, not so much, but the helicopter, 100%, because like in terms of speed, there's just no other way. Another random element is where the helicopter decides to spawn his soldiers, because if it spawns it, like, you know, like on the left, awesome, but on the right, that sucks, that's terrible, and I don't like it. So now we're at the mission with the snipers, and you have to follow like pretty specific paths to get past them. And when the mission like gets to the next mission, sometimes they change, and when you enter the area, they change. But for this first area, you kind of stay on the right. So the challenge is already picking up from the previous areas. You know, like sniper fire. If you're ghosting this, and you know, you're not just like, you know, smoking the snipers or taking out the snipers with a trank gun, you're actually like avoiding their gaze. Which, to be fair, their gaze sucks for being a sniper, but they do have a gaze, which you have to be wary of. And like here, you have to be very wary of the way they're placed, where the enemies are, where the snipers are, and you have to learn this. You kind of have to like poke at the game. There's a really interesting one in one of the Zadornov missions. I will say, playing the game with the ghosting methods, I think give me a bigger appreciation for the Zadornov missions, because they just go back to these previous areas, which have a lot of fun sneaking, and then they make the sneaking a little bit more challenging, and they push you in fun ways. Those Zadornov missions are also just, they have nothing going on in terms of story, and the random elements of it can also fuck up your S rank runs, and the way they place their prisoners can be obnoxious, and it, like, I swear the timer of those missions doesn't really account for the fact that, you know, the prisoners are like in a completely different area, like away from Zornov, and they go, oh, okay, I'm going to get to that later. And by the way, in this Cecile cutscene, if you zoom in on her boobs, they go, but yeah, if you didn't know, now you know. in one of my previous Metal Gear Solid videos, I think it was my original Metal Gear Solid 2 No Damage or 3, I said that there's no way Peace Walker could be that perverted because it's on the PSP. They don't have much to work with. I was wrong. I was really wrong. And I mentioned this 4 years ago in my original Peace Walker video, but I think it's a point worth repeating that this hardware does not stop them. It does not stop them from doing weird shit. So, keep that in mind. So, for here, wait for that guy to stop there, and then you run. Sometimes when I was revisiting this level, I would just always run, but you do have to take a pause with that guy for him to reach that position, and then you run. And here, I just love when I do this, when I just kind of stick myself to a wall, and then I just kind of wait for him to cross. Though sticking to a wall does illuminate an issue I have with this game, and it involves many different mechanics and their simplifications. And the way that I think their simplifications just don't really do that much good for the game. They don't do as much bad as you would think, but I do think their loss does limit the way you can ghost the game. Now, if you were playing the game in terms of holdups and smoke grenades, it doesn't really matter. The fact that you can't crawl, or the fact that you can't move across walls. And there was another one, I think the fact that you can't, hold bodies. And also the fact that the holdup states, they just automatically send the enemy to the ground, and, there's nothing else you have to do. You don't have to, knock them down to the ground and then hold them up. Once you hold them up, they immediately go to the ground. These simplifications, if you're just, tranking them from a distance or holding them up from a distance and just, faulting everybody, these simplifications don't matter. But when you're playing a ghost run, man, I miss the ability to crawl sometimes. There's, certain moments where it's crouch walking is not enough. And if I could crawl, I could have done the sickest ghost run ever, and I would have never been noticed, and it would have been so beautiful, but the game decided against it. A majority of this game, basically 95% of it is perfectly accustomed for crouch running and crouch walking, but there's one part, and that one part is actually in this mission, that I really wish I could crawl, because I could have done it in such a cooler way, but instead I had to do a different strategy because I did not have the ability to crawl, and it just makes me so sad. So you wait for that guy to turn around, then you run here, and the green guy, if you timed this correctly, should not be looking in your direction when you cross through there. You should be fine, but I know that maybe you can watch this video and you won't notice all the subtleties, and you'll try the same thing. You might get caught by that guy for all I know. It's happened to me multiple times when I see other people's strategies. It happened to me in Metal Gear Solid 2 a lot, because Metal Gear Solid 2, man, those subtleties matter. When you go, when you don't go, the timing, enemy vision, positioning, your noise. Metal Gear Solid 2, you actually make no noise when you're running, which is awesome, unless you're on a specific surface. It allows you to do some fun things with the enemies. This is the area with the snipers, and I'm not sure where they are, but myself, when I'm playing this game, definitely knows who they are. So see, you kind of go through the right, you skip past this guy, and then I don't know where the other guy is. I guess the other guy's right there. It seems you just kind of go through the right, but maybe before you go full right, maybe you go through the middle to kind of duke them out, maybe use some of the cover, and you're gonna have to go back through this area. So the previous mission was going through an area. This mission is pretty much going through the past two missions and then going back. So you backtrack, and then you go back to the main objective again, and this mission has a random element, and I don't like the random element because I created this awesome strategy for one specific area. Okay, so I guess here, you go here, you hide behind that rock, and then you hide behind this rock, and then you kind of hug this part of the wall, and I think if you don't hug it that much, the sniper might see you, and then you go through the middle there, and then you're free to run, and we're going to go hit the left, because the left is going to get to this big area, and I think this big area is going to have a prisoner. It should have a prisoner, or it might just be me checking if the orange guy showed up. Going to this area also takes you to a different entrance to the next area, and that entrance, no, I think the reason I go here is because that entrance is way better than the other entrance you could take into the area. But sometimes the random element might spawn the guy. We have to get an orange guy. Now the game, the way it sets it up is you have to listen for the quetzal. You have to listen to this little birdie. You have to listen to a little birdie. Birdie doesn't matter. Fuck the birdie. What you need to find is just an orange guy. And I want the orange guy to spawn here, because if the orange guy spawns here, I have to run back to the very bottom of the map, but not the exact bottom. And he's going to be placed in such a way where he's going to be defended by two other people. So it's actually kind of hard to reach him, and it's like a stealth puzzle in its own way. And the way I solved this stealth puzzle was really nice, but I really would prefer if the stealth puzzle allowed me to crawl, because if I could crawl, I could go on the right. I think I can kind of go around here and then get him on the left, because now that I can't crawl, you see, if I go at him from the left, there's actually another sniper looking straight at him, and he's just going to look at you and he's going to catch you. So instead of doing that, I have to do this strategy where I distract him, I get him off his post, and he's going to climb up there. When he climbs up there, I climb behind him, and then I get what I want to get. And yeah, I guess this mission you can't ghost it because you do have to touch this guy to get an ID thing. And I brought the Sonic guy with me, but for this like no damage run, this ghost run, I want to avoid using stuff like say the Soliton radar, because my original video I made it too easy by using the Soliton radar too much. Like you wouldn't even have that thing for a majority of the beginning of the game, and it just makes things too easy. I think it's more impressive for me to just know the entire layout of the map ahead of time and just doing it that way. But yeah, I am happy with the strategy I came up with here, but you see, I came up with this strategy, and then I reloaded the mission, and he wasn't here. So I had to reload the mission multiple times just to get the spawn to be just right for him to show up here, so that the mission can be this brave dash all the way back to this area, and then going all the way up again. And you know, some people don't like this backtracking, but I think this backtracking is very cool because the enemy placements do change. And also, you have to like keep in mind this entire area. You know, you're not thinking about just 3 areas, thinking about kind of like 4 to 8 areas or something. I mean, I failed algebra too, you know, like, you know, be patient. You have to, it's like multiple challenges back to back, and it's a smart reuse of assets. And it's a mission that requires some time. So I guess here we're kind of cutting through the middle, but we're sticking close to cover. We can't just go straight left or straight right because the sniper's going to get us. So yeah, cover there. Then we take cover there. And it seems, see, the sniper's right there on the left. So we're just kind of crouch walking there. And then from here, we should be fine to kind of stand up and go. The next area is going to be a bit more complicated. We have to take a very specific path to avoid the sniper's gaze. So yeah, I like this mission's more complicated, though it is kind of like needless padding, like Huey just being like, oh, I don't have the ID card, and the fact that the enemy spawn can be random and he can be placed in an area that's not going to be anywhere near as interesting to solve. I don't like that, but once he's in the area that I like doing this mission, though I think like might be a little too generous because I struggle a lot with this mission. So you kind of take this path, there's a guy there. I guess I'm going to take it slow so he doesn't hear me, and I think we're just going to go around the right, and that should be good. And then, like, the final area is, like, you know, probably one of the easiest because it's a bunch of soldiers, like yeah, you're just kind of, like, moving around in a normal way that the rest of the enemies do. While here, it's like a weird puzzle where, you know, you have to, like, take the right path to avoid the sights. You can manipulate the sights as well. You know, it's not like a one-way solution. But for ghosting, the way I did it, I think is pretty sweet. But I also do want to talk about the fact that I really don't like the simplifications this game did to the gameplay. Like, for one, they simplified the holdups, crawling, and carrying bodies, and I just gotta say that any stealth game that removes the ability to move bodies is shooting itself in the foot. Splinter Cell Conviction shot itself in the foot. There's no reason that you can't move bodies, and the reason that Conviction also did it is because the only way you could play that game is lethally. There was no non-lethal play, despite the fact that, like, you know, you could do it by, you know, say, ghosting, you could do it by, you know, doing non-lethal takedowns, but Conviction just said, no, you're gonna kill everyone because I guess it's cool. But you can kind of just do the same strategy again, except there's going to be a slight difference this time. And it's that there's going to be an enemy all the way at the very entrance that you kind of have to watch out for. But beyond that, it's the same. You kind of go past that one guy, you go past this guy, and then the next guy I need to go past. Okay, I don't think it's this guy. Maybe it is this guy. Maybe it's not this guy. But, you know, always be wary of which way they're going to turn and then get past them. Once we get past this guy, there's going to be a guy who's going to be looking like straight at me when I want to go into it. But you can kind of use the cover, like right there, the cover in the middle of that room to kind of block yourself. But when I'm going in, he's going to be like, huh, what was that? Is someone there? Oh, is someone there? Okay, so this game, when an enemy says, what was that? They're curious. And if you stay hidden for a long while or get really far away from them, they'll be like, huh, must have been nothing. But when they say, is someone there? They're going to start slowly walking to your position to investigate what they saw, though they don't know exactly that you're there. But yeah, no, this mission, it's one of the longest ones in the game, and you have to like memorize quite a few things. You have to know like the rooms forward and back. You have to be wary of how the spawns work with the orange guy, but once you do, it's a pretty cool mission. What I don't like about it, it has one of the most egregious like sequences of QTEs back to back. I'm not a big fan of the story moment. I'm not a big fan. I hate the QTEs. Like the fact that this is one of the longest missions in the game, and then you can fuck up your S rank by fucking up probably like the second hardest series of QTEs throughout the entire game is fucking insanity. It's fucking nonsense. It's terrible. So I really, really don't like that. But to get back to the simplification, so yeah, in Peace Walker here, you can't carry bodies despite the fact that you carry bodies since Metal Gear Solid 2 onwards. It's like, oh, it's on the PSP. They had to, like, you know, scale back. You could carry bodies in portable ops. So why can't I carry bodies in this game? And for a majority of the time, you don't have to. And also, if I'm ghosting, I don't have to. But then we get to the tank boss fights. Okay, so like in the main ops, I don't have to. But in the extra ops, it gets to a point you're not going to have enough Fultons to carry everyone, like, you know, back, and you need to rely on, like, the tank or the armored vehicle to pretty much, like, kill the soldiers for you. And for the armored vehicles, a lot of the time, I can just kind of hold up the enemies, and they'll be in position for the armored vehicle to pretty much run them over when it does, like, one loop. But the tank, the way the enemies, like, kind of, like, line up around the tank, when you hold them up and the tank does its path, it tends to avoid the enemies that you hold up on the ground. You know what would, so like if you want to like put the enemies in position, you kind of have to like, you know, grab them in like a CQC chokehold and do like that big throw, because the big throw is the only thing you can do to move the bodies. But you know, it would have been a lot easier if I could just move the bodies normally. Like, oh, it's a bit slow to do in 2 and 3 and portable ops, but it was efficient. I don't have to move them that much to do the strategies I want to do in the extra ops, but I definitely prefer it over doing the fucking big ass fucking throws, which are the only option you have, or like the little throw, which is still a big ass throw. It's like, ugh. But yeah, look at these QTs. It's fucking bullshit. You have to use like the D-pad and like the triangle button, and it's like it's such a fast pace. And if you fuck up any of these, boom, mission over. You have to do the whole thing over again. Like the mission's like 6 to 8 minutes, and you have to do it all over again. And for this game, 6 to 8 minutes feels like forever, because most of these missions are like 2 to 4 minutes. So this moment, I'm not going to have the most elegant way of like summarizing this, but in Metal Gear Solid 4 and Peace Walker, the game just straight up like lies to you sometimes about the way past events go. Like in Peace Walker here, the way Snake is remembering this, all these lines of dialogue don't happen in the final battle, they happen in a codec call. But then again, I'll just take this as the game pretty much truncating the whole drama of Snake Eater into this one final fight. And one thing which Peace Walker I think does mostly pretty well is that it tends to avoid the writing in some of the previous games where characters just kind of like info dump to each other. There seems to be like a genuine attempt to create a script that's like more reactive, where characters aren't just like yapping at each other, they're actually talking to each other, and like the way characters respond like reveal their personality. I mean, there's still like a lot of info dumping, but like Snake feels a little bit more active. He's not always just asking questions, he's like replying with his own personality. So the way they kind of like rewrote this sequence kind of feels like an attempt to do that, because before it was a pretty one-sided like codec call with Snake and the boss, and it was a codec call. It was all just like text and music, while here they seem to be kind of mixing it into the fight and kind of trying to make it like this whole dynamic little thing. So it's kind of an attempt at that. But also, this whole game is about like fragile memory, you know, like the people misinterpreting what others think, people misremembering things. So it might be intentional that he's like misremembering the way the boss talked to him. And I bring up Metal Gear Solid 4 because in Chapter 3, I guess spoilers for Metal Gear Solid 4, but if you're playing Peace Walker, you probably should have played 4 as well, because the game came after 4, and why did you open my door? Big Mama's recollection of what she did in Snake Eater in 4 might actually be at odds with what actually happened in Snake Eater. Like, Kojima might have just rewrote it so it can make it like more poetic, or something must have been lost in translation. Anyways, the Chrysalis. So I guess I'm using a weapon that's like not as powerful, except in the main game, this weapon, you don't get it when you first fight this boss fight, so this weapon still is pretty overpowered and it still destroys it. But before, I also used like a Carl Gustavo or something, but now I'm only using the FIM just to kind of like keep things a little bit more balanced and to allow this boss fight to do more things, but I'm still dealing crazy damage. But I do think it's insane that you don't unlock the FIM until after this fight, because this fight is made for the FIM. I don't know, maybe there was a way to unlock this before this fight, because you really need it. Like, there is ways to fight this fight without the FIM, but like the FIM is like, it's specialty made for the Chrysalis here. And something I wanted to mention is that, you know, the weapons have different ranks. I've mentioned that before, but basically the way I see it, you know, you have like a rank 2 weapon. If you level up to a rank 3 weapon, you're gonna beat the fight in like twice as much time, twice as fast, because the weapon deals twice as much damage. If you lower your weapon from level 2 to level 1, your fight attempt is going to take twice as long. So let's say if a fight takes 8 minutes to beat, if you downgrade your weapon, it's going to take 16 minutes to beat, and at that point, you got to ask yourself, do I want a 16-minute no damage? Now, sometimes, you know, like a previous like video I did, it was like a 2-minute fight, and the boss couldn't do anything, and I'm like, do I want a 4-minute fight? That's the question I asked myself with the Pupa. And yeah, I did want a 4-minute fight, and it was pretty dope. Now here, the fight's slightly longer than before, but the Chrysalis still doesn't do everything it can do. It has like some really nasty phases. Like, I'm not even sure if it even summons any kidnappers at this point. But yeah, right now I'm just kind of shooting it, and I think at some point it's going to try to do a big railgun thing. But it doesn't do like the most epic thing ever. Dodging the machine gun fire of the Chrysalis is such a pain in the ass, especially if you don't use your cover correctly, or if like if one little bullet slips by. Like, you really do have to use your cover like in a really nice way, or you're gonna get fucked. And I hope that what you're seeing in the video is like self-explanatory enough for how to get past it. What I don't like about using the chaff grenade is that it makes the boss fight, it makes like all the robot boss fights like wiggle around like little worms, and when they're wiggling around, it's hard to land a shot on their big weak point because they're just wiggling it around all the time. I wish they were just like stationary, but whatever. They wanted to show off that the thing was suffering. The thing. I mean, it is a thing, even though it has the AI of something which Dr. Strangelove wants to be desperately be more than just a thing. The environment here is dope as hell, and also like I guess like the coloring, just kind of like the greenish like feel and like just flow. Very, very cool environment. I should put more emphasis on what I do at the very beginning because it's very specific. I take a couple shots and I throw a chaff grenade at a very, very specific point to take more shots, and then after I take those specific shots, I throw the chaff grenade again for a very specific thing, and I really want it to fly behind me while the second chaff grenade goes off, because then I land another shot while it's stunned and hopefully it doesn't fly away too far so that the target becomes too hard to hit. But yeah, no, I mean, like, the stuff I do here can kind of be dense, and if I don't densely talk about it, I'm worried that you, the viewer, are going to be confused on how to do it, but I really hope my visuals can be self-explanatory because I am bound to miss stuff as I'm bouncing from topic to topic, because I also want to shout out the official flow for PS Vita hacks. And I also just want to go back to the fact that the simplification of controls, you know, like players can ignore like some of those extra things like crawling and carrying bodies and be just fine. And so while I was recording this boss fight, my PS Vita actually ran out of battery. So I went back, I charged it up, and then I plugged it back in to keep recording. And you know, like, despite the fact that it ran out of battery, it kept where I was, like, exactly the same. And I decided to include that in the video because it made me laugh, and I didn't want to do this boss fight again because it was a big pain in the ass. And you know, this attempt is good. It's a good attempt, but you know, my PS Vita ran out of battery while I was doing it. I was fighting it on low battery. Never fight a boss fight on low battery. I actually break that rule multiple times, and I mostly suffer for it, but there's one time where I do it where I got lucky enough that my PS Vita didn't die on me while I was doing that boss fight because I beat the boss fight like decently quickly, but that's not going to show up for like a while. But yeah, I hope you appreciate that little silly thing I added in there. I hope that was a thing which made you smile. But yeah, no, I just feel like if we had the ability to carry bodies and crawl, we could push the ghosting to unreal levels. And we're pushing the ghosting to pretty cool levels right now, but it could have been unreal levels if we had those abilities. We could have pushed the boss fights to unreal levels if we had those abilities, but right now we're a little limited. We have to do some awkward stuff to do unreal stuff. And I guess when I'm talking about CQC and smoke and all that, apparently, okay, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I'm pretty sure you can't CQC guards inside of smoke in Metal Gear Solid 4. And that just surprises me because in this game, it's like pretty much the name of the game if you want to break it. Just throw smoke grenades and CQC everyone, but in Metal Gear Solid 4, it seems like you can't really do that because Snake starts coughing on the same smoke and he can't do anything about it. So you can't do the same strategy in Metal Gear Solid 4, apparently. Metal Gear Solid 4 CQC is also just a little bit weird because, you know, like Snake Eater CQC, you throw an enemy to the ground, big thud, big crunch, really, really like it. Metal Gear Solid 4, you throw an enemy to the ground, it has like the sound design of like a pillow, of dropping a pillow on the ground. I don't like it. Like, I mean, like, I kind of like it on some level, but I much prefer Snake Eaters, like, you know, big thud, big, like, rocky thud. And Peace Walker brings back that rocky thud, and I'm a really big fan of that. Oh, so this level, if you play it normally, piss easy, you beat it in under a minute. But if you want to rescue every prisoner and ghost the level and do an Assassin's Creed, you know, like jump leap of faith for no fucking reason because it's actually easier to just roll off the building instead of doing leap of faith. If you want to do all that, this level becomes a lot more interesting, and I've grown a much bigger appreciation for it because before I'm like, wow, this level has a lot of cool level design. You know, there's like rooftops you can go into, there's an Assassin's Creed thing you can do, there's multiple enemies. But I was sad that none of that mattered because I could just run to the left and pretty much skip all of it. But now that I have to do these other objectives like the prisoner, and also I can't snipe anyone, I have to do ghosting, this level became so much more interesting because like it's just so tightly packed with interesting stealth challenges in like every little corner. It's a small area, but it just feels like so well intentioned with like, you know, back to back like stealth moments. Like here, I'm going to distract this guy so that he turns around quicker, so that I can run to these stairs quicker before that other guard gets close enough to see me. Like I really like thought this level out. You know, I had to like, you know, shimmy my way over to rescue that one prisoner, and here I have to run as fast as possible to get to the leap of faith before this guard turns around, because if you do the leap of faith and the guard is staring at you, even if he doesn't go on alert, he gets curious enough to go check out your assassin's box, and it just kind of ruins your ghost run. So yeah, no, like I'm using like every dirty trick in the book to be fast enough to get past that guy, to do the leap of faith without him looking in my direction. And now, was there a way to get past that guy quickly enough before he turned around? I don't know, but I'm just going to take the safe route and just do some, like, you know, neutral ghosting of actually waiting the guy out, actually having patience. Because, I mean, a lot of the ghosting I'm doing is just running so fast they don't see me, but now I'm doing some patience ghosting where I actually wait him out. But yeah, no, this is like one of my favorite levels in the game. I mean, like the vibes are also amazing, just like being at dawn, and like just like the buildings look cool, and the fact that you can like run on the roofs. There's like the verticality. You can like kind of like roll across roofs. It's probably one of the best levels in the game. It might be my favorite level in the game, though it is just this one room. But once you know, have to do the level this way, where you have to ghost, and you have to get all the prisoners, and you don't use the love box to pretty much like jump around there, forcing you to actually contend with these enemies here, and actually going through this little gap here to get the jump on these other guys. Oh, and actually like laying down on the ground to have more camo, to stay more hidden from the guy there. Oh man, it's so good. It's so good. And the way I get past this guy is unreal. Like, I'm right next to him, and I go right there when he's looking away. Okay, one of the things about ghosting in this game is that sometimes you can't wait for the enemy to completely turn around. You sometimes have to pay really close attention to their head movement, because their sight line is so short that them moving their head basically like eliminates their entire peripheral vision, and you can take advantage of that. I will say, this is a time where playing the console version of the game is going to be much better, because on the console version, you see their head turn and you take advantage of that. In this one, their heads are so fucking pixelated, you don't know where like the mask and the eyes start. So it's actually hard to see which way they're facing if they're too far away. So it's hard to judge. And you have to get like super duper eyesight to like see, you know, when to take advantage of like running, or just, you have to like, you know, instead of relying on visuals, you have to rely on timing. So that's one pain in the ass thing of playing on the PSP and PS Vita. Wait, I was spending so much time gushing about the level. I didn't even mention the most insane thing I did inside the level. Like, right when I entered the middle of the area, that roll I did to get past that one guard who was looking a little bit away from me, that was an insane roll. Like, that strategy I came up with, like, I fucking tried that shit. I teched it like over and over and over. This is a better term for this. Like, you know, I was running it back and back and back, trying to see what strategy, what's the fastest way to get past that guy. And like that roll, like that's not even the most insane roll I did in like my runs, my multiple runs. I did like really, really crazy stuff. Now this mission is full on action, and I'm not a big fan, but you know, I can't ghost this mission. I have to take everyone out, but I'm gonna do it non-lethally, except for the robots. So the only difference from my original video is I want to do it more interesting. I want to run around the map. I don't want to just stay, you know, planted, pretty much sniping everyone here. I'm going to start like moving around, sniping people from other places. And also I pretty much brought this rocket launcher to pretty much just take care of these flying things. So instead of shooting it with machine gun fire, I'm just going to use these to lock onto every single one of them and eliminate them before they get anywhere near close to me. So I think I'm just camping out here and eliminating all 5 of these things. And this is such a close moment. This guy came right next to me, and like, oh man, see, like, coming here puts you at way bigger risk, but also creates like more interesting gameplay like that. But the gameplay still isn't that interesting, because it's just like fucking, you know, you defeat the 24 enemies, and you know, do crowd survival and all that, and blah 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 blah. I would much prefer to be able to ghost stuff, but nope, this is action. You gotta take them out non-lethally. Oh, I think I tried to take out all 5, but when I took out the third one, you saw the enemy got right in my face. And before, in my old video, I brought like the non-lethal sniper rifle, and in my old video, I mentioned it sucked ass, and I'm just gonna mention right now, it sucks ass. But now, this is where the aiming reticle becomes so fucking frustrating, because I have these guys like right in the middle, and it doesn't like land anything, dude. This is where I'm most mad with the reticle. You might be asking, why are you trying to snipe these guys across the map? Because it's possible. I just got a headshot right there. but still, like, it feels so fucking jittery, and also, like, every camera movement I make just feels like it swings way too much to be able to, like, capture these subtle little pixels. And yeah, doing this on the PSP is harder because, like, it's literally moving pixels. Like, little itty-bitty pixels. It's so hard to, like, get a read on these guys. But man, see, look at that. Some of those shots should have landed. Some of those shots should have landed. It's fucking asinine that, like, none of those landed. It's asinine that these aren't landing. The enemy's in the middle of, like, my reticles. It should be working. That fucking drives me up a wall. But whatever, I dealt with it. Doing this is still better than using the sniper rifle. So, you know, there we go. Finally landed some shots. And I think I'm using, like, my max upgraded, like, you know, my trank gun. I think it's like level 4, so pretty much 2 shots puts him to sleep very quickly. Not immediately to sleep, but it puts him to sleep very quickly. And I think in the no commentary version of this recording, you can hear like some window noises, like da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. And what that Windows noise is that OBS like lost internet connection and my stream was like dying for like 20 seconds. But then it got it back and the Windows noise came back. So yeah, here, oh shit, I have to activate my fucking shield. I brought a shield, by the way, check it out. Whoa, I really got scared. So here the enemy spawned like right next to me, and I guess now they're just really opening fire. The positioning of where like the new crowd spawns, I think, can be a bit random. I'm not 100% sure how to manipulate it. But so one of the best setups you can get is if the enemy spawn in from like down below and they have to climb the stairs, because if you set yourself up correctly, they basically just give you free headshots back to back to back. But while you're getting those free headshots, there'll be like 2 or 3 enemies who kind of stay downstairs and just try to fire at you from there, and those guys can clip you. I've been clipped before and it was really sad. So yeah, like doing this section, it frustrated me to no end. Actually, it frustrated me to an end once I finished the mission. But like these guys with machine guns, I don't mind them. The snipers annoy me more because it kind of gets to a point where if you try to get really close to them, the way you avoid their gunfire is by running like left or right away from the laser. And if you just keep a consistent direction, like, you know, the sniper fire won't hit you. But if you kind of like switch directions or you stay still for too long, the sniper fire gets you. But if a sniper's like right in front of you and you're like on a linear piece of, you know, land and you have to go forward, there's no way to go left or right without falling off the map, then you just get shot and it's like, well, what the fuck? Oh, and the rocket launcher guys can also be a nasty sort. And another thing I don't like about sniper guys is that they get so far away from you. And especially when there's like 3 of them set up and they're all like across the map and they all have like, you know, like intersecting lines of laser fire. It's infuriating. And I'm just telling you all this because this was not an easy fight to revisit. But, like, ugh, dude, it was so annoying. Oh, and then we got this fucking guy. Just kind of stunning him by doing a little roll. Like, even the way they get into, like, CQC and, like, Snake Eater, you get too close to an enemy, they're pretty quick about pulling out their knife and just doing a little stab. While here, they're so much slower. So, you know, they're just a non-issue. But to be fair, despite how much of a non-issue these enemies are, they still pose the challenge for doing no damage. You know, machine gun guys, a little bullet can clip you. The snipers can get a shot on you if you're positioned incorrectly. Rocket launcher guys, you might not be paying attention to them, and suddenly, boom, big-ass explosion. So, this section definitely gets a lot of, like, mileage out of being a huge pain in the ass. Like here, they're coming up the stairs, and sadly, I don't get headshots because I pretty much mistime my thing. But you can also just shoot them like this. Boom, get like 2 shots there, and then another guy's going to come up, I'm going to get 2 shots there. Very nice. And also, my shield is actually blocking the bullets. Whenever the shield blocks the bullets, the shield kind of like bounces up and down. But then, like, when a lot of them start like climbing up, it kind of gets to a point where they're coming up too fast, and I'm not able to get all of them. But if you're landing headshots and you're being precise about the headshots, you should be just fine. But if you're doing like double shots for every body, for like, you know, every person, well, then you might be too slow to take care of everyone who's going up the stairs. Throughout this video, I have been praising the virtues of playing ghosting, doing a ghosting path, not touching the enemies. But this game doesn't really support ghosting, and I'm not just talking about the main ops like this one, which pretty much make it impossible to ghost. The game's ecosystem and economy go directly against ghosting. This game has a base builder, and pretty much every soldier that you kidnap grows your base, and growing your base and leveling up like your stations gives you access to more weapons you can use in more missions, and doing more missions and getting more guys will pretty much, it's a constant cycle. So pretty much playing the game normally and playing the game in a way which pretty much will give you the most like bang for your buck and the most reward. And that was a pretty cool rocket. I like that visual. It was really nice. But yeah, for these snipers, I'm going to try to smoke them out so that they don't annoy me with their thing. But yeah, playing the game normally is pretty much you go up, you kidnap guys. So kidnapping guys means you shoot them with a trank gun, you hold them up, you do all these things which make them a lot easier to deal with. You throw smoke grenades to kind of like fuck around with them. That's how you play the game normally, and the game rewards you by building your base, giving you guys which are good in your unit, and if you put them in the combat unit, it even gives you like other players you can play as in the missions. I never do that. I never want to play as another character, but I'm sure there's like other characters in this game which have advantages. Maybe there could be a character that runs faster, has more health, can spot enemies on the map. There's certain like soldiers you can like recruit for your combat unit, which has an ability where when you open the map, they can see where all the prisoners are placed or where all the enemies are placed. So that's important. I never did that though because I never want to play as a random soldier. I want to play as Snake. Not Solid Snake, Big Boss. Naked Snake. I don't think people call him Naked Snake anymore. They call him John. And here I'm trying to set up a similar, like, you know, image to the one I had in like my first video, except this time I don't got like a rocket. I don't have the rocket launcher on me. I just kind of have nothing. Oh, I don't have the sniper on me anymore. So I'm just kind of doing a little CQC stance. Another thing I don't like about this game is that it's probably one of the clunkiest Metal Gear Solid games to control. And it's kind of like, what are you talking about? They simplified the control so it runs better on PSP, and you know you got third-person aiming and crouch walking. Yeah, but compare how like slow going from standing position to crouching position is compared to like Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 and 4. Like it feels clunky. There's like so much like it's so much slower, and it feels like whenever you try to do it, it's like delayed, and like your movement like just doesn't feel as smooth. Like the roll isn't as fast. Like, you know, there's like more end lag on it. And also the aiming is like more stiff. I think the aiming is like more stiff than like Metal Gear Solid 2 or 3. I mean, yeah, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 had like weird control setups. You know, you go into first person, but like it felt so smooth to move. But here, it's third-person aiming, but it's pretty stiff third-person aiming, and the stiffness is still felt when the game got put into the consoles on PS3 and Xbox 360 at 60 FPS with better graphics. It still doesn't feel great. And it's just like, yeah, no. It just feels like a clunky game to play, so when it gets really focused on the action, I don't think it shines as much as it could have, because the combat just doesn't feel that good. And I will say, I think the combat in Metal Gear Solid 4 also doesn't feel that good. I think Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 just have like this unique vibe with the sound design and just like the way you play it, where it feels really nice to engage in combat. 4 adopted a more third-person aiming control scheme, but it was still kind of clunky. But I do miss some like combat tech from 4. Like there's like this dodge roll you can do while aiming a weapon. That's gone in Peace Walker. I would have liked to do that. That would have been really, really nice. Now some of the other stuff like the inchworm, I don't need the inchworm. I just want to crawl. So this fight, I'm pretty sure I'm using the same weapons as before, because doing so, this fight's like 5 to 6 minutes. If I used weapons which were weaker, this fight would be turned into like a 12-minute fight. I don't know if I want a 12-minute fight recorded. But honestly, maybe I should have done it, because I think this is one of the more fair fights if you set yourself up correctly. Like, you know, I think it's probably my favorite boss fight in the game, because it's one of the coolest, like, conceptual, like, concepts in the game. Conceptual concepts. What the fuck am I talking about? But yeah, it's one of the coolest concepts in the game. Just a fortress. An entire fortress is trying to take you down. Like, once you, like, defeat it, or, like, it gets to this point, you can climb up the fortress to land as, like, the finishing blow. That's so fucking cool, man. That is, like, so fucking cool. None of the other boss fights are this cool. You're fighting a fucking, like, just living, like, fucking, you're fighting a cruise ship. Oh, man, I love that. I really do love that. So, the Cocoon gets a big thumbs up for me. And despite me saying the Cocoon is pretty cool, I have not gone through any of the strategy for no damaging it. I mean, you land a couple shots, and then it's going to try to shoot you with the cannon, so you dodge the cannon shots, and it should be noted that, like, the final cannon shot, if you're running in one direction for too long, it tries to pretty much, like, bait you out and shoot, like, ahead of itself, so that you pretty much just run into the fire. So, you know, be wary of that. Actually pay attention to where that thing is aiming, because it won't always aim, you know, like, closer to you. Sometimes it'll aim ahead of you to trick you into running ahead and just running straight into the blast. So then after landing a couple shots there, like, it'll sometimes enter like a rocket launch, like a rocket phase, where it just shoots like rocket missiles at you. And I swear it's harder to dodge the rocket missiles on PSP compared to the PS3, because like the way they curve, I don't remember that happening on the PS3, but also I haven't played the PS3 in a while. So maybe it's just like a positioning thing where you really have to be positioned correctly, that like the rocket missiles don't just curve into your position. You know, like maybe you get too close to the robot so that the missiles don't get to your position at all. Like, some missile attacks, very easy to dodge. Some missile attacks, actually the bane of my existence. And I guess, like, the way I fought this thing here, the way it behaved, it never did those missile attacks, and I'm just so glad that it never did. But I'm telling you, holy fuck, if it did, that would have been an annoying thing to dodge. But then once it gets to 4 health bars, it's going to crash into the side of a building and drop some ladders so you can climb to pretty much, like, you know, get into the AI pod. But before you climb those stairs, I recommend getting the boss fight to its final, like, health bar and then climbing. But before you climb, throw a chaff. And then when you're finished climbing the stairs, throw another chaff. And then when that chaff runs out, throw another chaff. And then when you're up there, there's only 1 life bar left, so you don't have to, like, shoot too many rockets to pretty much, like, you know, get inside the AI pod. And another thing is that you do want to have ammo when you're going up on top of the cocoon, because you can't call for a supply drop on top of the cocoon. It doesn't work. Or I think the items just go through the cocoon. You have to be on the ground floor to get more items from a supply drop. So you pretty much have to, like, drop down from the entire fortress, get the items, then climb the fortress again. And by the time you're done, it probably got its health back. Because this boss fight enters a state after you eliminate all its health bars where it has, like, the AI pod health bar. But if you don't eliminate the AI pod health bar fast enough, it just recovers all its health again. So I want to get back... Okay, no, actually, I want to get back to ghosting. So yeah, I'm telling you that this game's economy does not support ghosting, but ghosting this mission is some of the most fun I've ever had with this game. So just, like, you know, that thing which isn't forced by the game, you know, like, and the game's systems are, like, the enemies are, like, too easy, the weapons are too good for you to really consider ghosting, but, and, like, there's no real good rewards for ghosting, but just the act of ghosting itself and committing to it is so much fun that you really should, like, experiment with it. And this game, like, the bite-sized missions, it's just, like, bite-sized, like, you know, selections of ghosting and, like, solving that puzzle is so much fun. So yeah, here I'm trying to get to the other side of this room as fast as possible for my strategy, and for that strategy I'm using the love box. So, like, this mission is dope. This is a dope sneaking mission. They've, like, pretty much, like, upped the challenge, and upping the challenge, you know, really, like, made me do stuff here. So, like, I want to go up. I have to rescue that prisoner behind here. I have to go up these stairs before those 2 guards are staring at me, because if you're, like, in the middle of the stairs and the guard is staring in your direction, they can actually see through the stairs and see you. And then when that guard climbs these stairs, we're going to go up these stairs, and then that guard's going to go to this position, and we're going to get behind him, and he's going to turn around at some point. When he turns around, we're going to get down here. And we're going to crouch walk onto this point here. And there's a guard down there who can kind of catch sight of you. And what I like to do is pretty much just kind of, like, stay here. And I think at some point I lay flat, or I just kind of stay here. And I don't go any further, because if I go any further, one of those guards is actually going to catch sight of me. And I have to get to that elevator. There's an elevator, which this is being protected by this guard, and once that guard turns around, there's going to be another guard. Okay, so here I lie, like, prone to hide myself from that guy behind me. So, like, this hangar, when I played it in my old video, this is what I'm talking about. The smoke grenades just ruin a lot of, like, the fun of figuring out the levels. Like, you can just throw a smoke grenade at the very beginning, all 6 guys are packed in there, and then you get to this elevator in, like, 20 seconds. But if you don't throw a smoke grenade, look at all the cool shit I have to do. I have to navigate the level. I have to be quick about the way I navigate the level. I'm climbing the stairs. I'm crawling over the metal gear. I'm jumping off the metal gear. There's, like, multiple enemies to manage. It's a caution state. You know, there's, like, a lot to keep in mind. And if you can successfully ghost your way through there, it's one of the best feelings. But the mission doesn't stop there. So once you figure out this room, now we have this room. I just, like, compare and contrast what I have to do here to what I did in my old video, and you'll see just how much more interesting ghosting in Peace Walker is. And it's like accessible, because it's not such a hard game, because the enemies are dumb as fucking bats. Okay, bats aren't even that dumb. The bats, we call that bat shit, because bat shit is, like, a real shitty bat. I don't fucking know. So here we get this, I get up there and they can't see me, but I can't keep going because then that one of those guys will see me. Like, I'm always trying to find the fastest way to get past these sections. Like, this part of the level, this second room is, yeah, no, it's just a bunch of guys, like, running to the beginning. It's like a nice gimmick. And I like how this game uses this level again, but not in a caution state. It just has enemies in, like, a more normal setup. One thing which I guess kind of annoys me about this game sometimes is that, you know, there's, like, a hanging mode. You can hang on things, but a majority of the time, if you want to do the fastest thing possible, hanging is much slower and not as useful, but every now and then there's, like, a niche use for it. So yeah, before you rescue this prisoner, don't go straight to him. Go around, spawn these guys, and once those guys get past him, then you rescue the prisoner. And then this part here, oh, this part's pretty challenging too. There's a lot of like interesting enemy setups and placement, and you have to really work your way around it. Especially like ghosting like the last 2 enemies in the area is really crazy. Oh, one cool thing about this level and the way they reuse this area again for like another mission coming up is that in this level, because we're in a caution state, they lock off the 2nd floor. But when you return to this area, you can go to the 2nd floor. I think that's really cool. It's a really smart way of using this area again. So I get past that guy. We're pretty much going to be beelining the left side of this room the whole time. So we go past this guy. This guy's going to be doing a little thing there. Then we got a shield guy there, and we got a guy next to the shield guy who doesn't have a shield, but he's like, patrolling the same area. And then once like this guy goes to do his thing, I'm going to try to get closer to those guys over there. But it's like it takes a very particular timing and positioning. Okay, I actually forget exactly how I do it. Let's see what I do. I think I really have to wait for these enemies to like turn around. Like this guy's going to keep going back. He's going to turn around, and the shield guy's going to turn around. And then I'm going to make my move. I'm going to make my grand like reveal. And like it's really weird because I think like the guy who's not the shield guy is the first one to turn around. So I have to do this. I have to stay all the way on the left side of the room so like the sight line of the guard on the right doesn't catch me. And then I have to be quick enough to get like forward past those enemies before the shield guy turns around. And then you have to do like mash the circle button to get past this door like it's a fucking God of War game. I mean, hey, there was 2 God of War games on this very console, the PSP. So, it's like there's a lot to manage. And once you figure out a plan and you execute that plan, man, that's so cool. This level might also be one of my favorites just because like it's so cool, but like not bullshit. I think like the one in chapter 4, there's sections that are fucking... Okay, the QTEs are bullshit. This fucking sucks. I can't fucking stand these QTEs, man. Oh my goodness. And also, I don't even want the reward at the end of these QTEs. If you successfully do every single one of these QTEs, you get an ID card for the prison escape mission, which like automatically gets you out of your cell. And if you don't get that ID card, you instead have to use a jigsaw to like slowly cut the door open. But you know what? I like slowly cutting the door open. It's interesting. It takes more time, and like my strategy is more challenging, and I appreciate the challenge. I don't want to just quickly go out the door. Like it's like, if you're leaving a hotel, you fucking check in at the front desk. You don't just fucking leave. So yeah, fuck these QTEs. If you fail any of these, you have to do the whole mission again. And once again, this mission is really challenging, and I like the challenge, but I don't like that the challenge and like the challenge of getting the S ranks gets invalidated if you don't do this fucking bullshit. I gotta admit that my outline for this video is not very long. I don't have many points, and I don't really know what to add. And there's like some topics I could research further, but I actually want to save those topics for another video I want to make. Like for example, listening to every single one of the cassette tapes. I don't want to do that right now. I want to do that when I no damage the extra ops. So yeah, right now I skipped the torture sequence in this game. It's a sequence where you get electrocuted and you have to like spam a button, because I retried it so many different times and I swear it's impossible to no damage. Like, I've gotten, like, close enough where pretty much, I get the health bar completely full, but it always ends with a slight nipple of damage. So, yeah, you have to watch for this guard to cross a certain line, and then you start doing this, because if you do it immediately, it's too loud. And also, you need to get out of this area fast enough before a caution state, like, fully takes into effect. And once again, this is ghosting, so this mission becomes pretty interesting, though it is kind of a one-trick pony. You basically have to go down, like, one hallway, and that's it. Maybe the pony could become more complicated if you actually let the caution state play out and wait longer, but there's no real point to waiting longer where you can just go further. So these guards are always going to be looking a certain direction, and it makes it really annoying to get past them. You can't wait them out and also get past the caution state. So what I'm going to do is bring back a piece of lovely tech we haven't seen in quite a long while. Bring on the footsteps. Boom! Footstep tech. And then we have to do this twice in a row to escape this building. Boom! Footsteps. Look at that. That wasn't that a beautiful roll? And then we just leave the building. Sadly, a caution state does happen right as I cross the door. But if you use Dr. Strangelove's ID card, you can do the exact same strategy and leave this area before a caution state even becomes a thing. The caution state happens because the guard who was looking at your cell beforehand pretty much like just goes back in his patrol and sees that the cell is empty, and then this happens. But if you're not quick enough, then like all the soldiers start running to weird locations, and then you don't really have as many hiding spots when they're all running to a weird location. But yeah, that's the mission. I like it. I'm going to tell you right now that I repeated that mission like multiple times just because I was developing like the law rank 4 for like the final main op. And I think one of the fastest ways to kind of keep that development going, like, you know, smooth and fast, was to repeat the torture mission over and over and over again. The other way was to repeat the mind-based mission over and over and over again. But I think the prison mission actually gave me more percentage for every time I completed it compared to that. So this mission also has a lot of interesting things I have to do, but one of those interesting things is kind of a pain in the ass. We're not at the pain in the ass section yet, so you go as quickly as you can to those stairs. You pretty much climb up here to this metal gear. You don't cross any further, because if you cross any further, an enemy might notice you. And then when that guy crosses there, you go here, and then you have to, that's how you get to this prisoner here. You rescue this prisoner, and then you have to go back the way you came, and this is the part that's kind of a pain in the ass. You have to do this roll perfectly. Because a lot of the time, if you fuck up that roll, you just end up slipping through the metal gear. I don't know what timing we have to do specifically, but if you do the timing correctly, you land on the metal gear like that. If you do it incorrectly, then you end up just like not even getting on top of it. You just fall to the ground. You have to repeat everything over again. You have to wait for that guy to not be looking at you, and then you roll into here. If you like, you know, like climb onto those boxes too quickly while the guy's still staring at you, he's gonna get suspicious, and it's gonna ruin your whole run and the timing of it all. So there we go, boom, we're not in a caution state anymore. The enemies are in more like, you know, pre-designated patrols, but it's still very interesting. And here, we're going to get access to the second floor. Oh, wait, no, going through that door, see, when you did this mission in the caution state, you could only go downstairs through the elevator, but now we have access to that door I just went through. So yeah, here, typically you would like wait for these guys to like do the patrol, but if you run fast enough to this point and start hanging, you can skip all of that and just immediately be here before they even start the little routine. I like how the game warns you, like, guys, Snake, if enemies are doing co-op play and you don't have co-op, don't do it. But yeah, like, this is like one of the most challenging like little stealth encounters, because knowing the exact timing of when you have to rescue that prisoner and when you have to like climb up, it was a pain in the ass to route, but once I had it routed down, I had to execute it, and then like it was just so nice once I was able to actually do it. But I mean, I can't lie to you, that section's a pain in the ass. It's certainly a pain in the ass when you have no idea what you're doing. I was just trying a bunch of different strategies, and I finally landed on what I did there. And a big part of that strategy depends on which way the enemy's head is turned, and if you're playing on PSP, those pixels don't always give you a clear indication of that, especially if the enemy's kind of far away. So there we go, you rescue a prisoner there, and then there you have to get past this shield guy. He's going to do something which is going to make it easy to get past him. So yeah, we're going to do this room all on the second floor, but in order to have finished the level, we have to go back to the first floor. And there's always something, like, you know, like I always kept failing this final third level because, you know, like I'll get past this guy, but then like the section up ahead will actually get me. And then I pass the section up ahead, and then the final section will get me. So it's always like something, you know, you're always engaged, you're always doing something, you're always thinking, and it's a great level. It's a really, really dope level. It's a great way to get to the finale of the game. But yeah, there's a shield guy there. I gotta wait for him to kind of cross. And also, in this part of the level, sometimes the enemy downstairs will actually see me. I started getting like Metal Gear Solid 2 flashbacks because an alert phase would sometimes happen if an enemy like looks at me while I'm upstairs, like the, you know, the cross line thing. And here, like in one of my failures, I tried to cross into here immediately, but there's a guy right there. So you have to come here, you have to see what he's doing, you have to see their sight lines, and then you get past him. And because we're not in a caution state, there's not going to be like a door you need to like God of War your way through. It's just going to be open, and then boom, you beat the level. Great level. Lovely level. Though, I did say that Peace Walker was a pretty accessible like ghosting game, and it is compared to some other like others in the stealth like, you know, genre. But one annoying thing about Peace Walker is, you know, say a level has like 3 areas you need to go through. The first 2 areas are really easy. The third area is kind of complicated, and every time you want to try a strategy and that strategy fails, you have to repeat the previous 2 areas over and over and over again. You don't get any time, you don't have any chance of practicing just that third area. You can only practice if you repeat the first 2 areas over and over and over and over again. Honestly, this is something which kind of stuck out to me in the very beginning of the game. At Rio de Jade area, you know, like the first 2 areas, pretty simple. But then you get to the Rio de Jade, you know, you have this objective where you have to hold up the 5 enemies. And I think a lot of like first-time players are just going to use the tranq gun to snipe them because doing anything more complicated is going to fuck up their run. You know, like, I mean, it's not very compelling to, you know, have to repeat those previous areas to get to Rio de Jade and have to, you know, like, figure out a strategy. And if the strategy fails, boom, we got to repeat the previous 2 areas again to get to Rio de Jade. And it's like, okay, I'm just going to snipe you now. I'm just going to snipe these enemies. I don't care anymore. And now we're fighting this Peace Walker. So you pretty much, you go upstairs, and then you kind of like run up and get far enough from the Peace Walker that when it roars, it doesn't affect you. And you set up the thing to shoot so that you actually land a shot. And then the S-mines, you stand far away enough that you can throw another rocket, and the S-mines explode and it doesn't affect you. And then these rockets, dude, do you see the way they curve? Like, the way they curve always fucked me over. And a chaff grenade can keep this boss stunned in really cool ways. Oh, no, the chaff grenade makes it like kneel over. The boss kneeling over is incredible. It's incredible. Peace Walker, like, even in its final fight, has some really nice reactions to the chaff grenade, especially if you do the chaff grenade in the middle of one of her attack animations that keeps her, like, you know, stuck still in place. Like, if you do the chaff grenade in the middle of one of her, like, drill missiles drilling right now. Like, you know, she stands still, and then when she's done doing the attack, then she does, like, the whole jittery, you chaffed me, you chaffed me. Because, like, a lot of the times to do this fight, the way the missiles curve, it just curves straight to my location. Like, look at that. Sometimes it just get me. Why do the missiles curve so much? I don't remember this happening on PS3. This makes me go fucking... It makes me feel like a Looney Tune. What the fuck? Also, you'll see that I'm avoiding the ground because it is kind of lava. If you avoid the ground, she pisses on you, and her piss is flames. You also don't want her to step on you because there's a QTE to pretty much, like, avoid it, or, like, just, like, you know, like, push it back, but you don't earn much for doing that, and the QTE is kind of, like... It's very contextual in a very weird way. You know when a game has contextual actions, but the way to do those contextual actions is so finicky that it might as well just be fucking a dice roll whether or not you get to press that button? That's what that QTE is like. So, you know, it's best just to not be in that situation at all and just kind of stay here and just, like, kill her, you know, maybe bait out the rocket launcher. Even though the rocket launcher, just the way those, sometimes the missiles will curve like that, it'll be so easy to avoid, and sometimes they'll curve in a way where they just, like, 5 of them just immediately eviscerate every limb in your body. Like, man, Kojima seems real interested in memory and how fragile it is, because Peace Walker pushes that idea with the way that the big boss interprets the boss's will. And the Phantom Pain pushes on this further. Like, I've heard some pretty nutty theories about the Phantom Pain. But the thing which kind of stops me from... Okay, let me tell you this theory about the Phantom Pain. Some people theorize that a lot of like, Ground Zeroes was actually fake. And the Phantom Pain, that, you know, like, there was the tape in Ground Zeroes where, you know, Skullface, like, rapes Paz. Some people theorize that tape doesn't exist and was only created for Venom Snake, or rather Venom Snake was, like, tricked into thinking it was real to give him motivation to go after Skullface. Now, what evidence do these people have? I think they were just hitting the pipe, I'm not gonna lie, but I can kind of see it, because especially as a Venom Snake is kind of groomed to play a certain role, so that could be a way they push him, because that tape does kind of come out of fucking nowhere. One, how is that tape, like, how does that tape come into, like, his possession? Two, it feels out of, like, tone with, like, the Metal Gear Solid, like, series, so maybe it was just a fake tape to pretty much get, like, Venom Snake riled up to go after him. And here, let me tell you this. So, in my original Peace Walker video, I said that if you fail any of these QTEs in this section, you won't get an S rank. However, I learned that if you fail one in this section, and only one, and you don't fail in any other section, you do get an S rank. So, this is, like, one of the only times where if you fail a little part of the cutscene interaction, you don't lose your S rank. So I really do love that, but this moment fucking sucks. Fucking, oh yeah, just spam the triangle button to make your horse run faster. What the fuck is this, dude? Like, God, this moment sucks. And this cutscene looks amazing, but the way this, like, the gameplay plays is just so fucking annoying. It feels like I'm playing GTA 5 on console. I have to spam the sprint button to get fucking anywhere. And, you know, at least in that game, you know, you had options on where to go. You could at least choose to walk. While here, it's the only gameplay happening. It's terrible. This shit fucking sucks, man. This is like the parts of the Peace Walker where I'm like, okay, why did they do this? This is terrible. Don't ever fucking do this again. And you know what? They never did. Thank goodness. But to get back to my Phantom Pain theory... See, like, these theories are interesting, and it's like, oh, maybe these games are more cryptic, and, you know, like, we have to, like, really dig into, like, the finer details to figure out the real story and the real narrative. But the Metal Gear Solid games, these are also stories that like just telling you up front what they're about a lot of the time, especially the earlier games. So I'm just not sure how far I can push on these theories when Kojima seems pretty interested in just telling you everything. Like, Metal Gear Solid 4, like, spends so much time telling you every little aspect of their world that, you know, I can't buy into this whole concept of like these meta narratives and all. To be fair, Metal Gear Solid 2 does push pretty heavily on the meta narrative. So it's like, so here we're going to do footstep tech, and here I actually just start immediately sprinting once I'm done with the roll, and the enemy doesn't notice me. So that's when I learned, oh, you can do that if you distract the enemy. This level, it's a pretty dope level, but the time requirement for S rank is absurd. So this is one of the toughest levels. You have this rover flying around. So the strategy for the rover here is it's going to start shooting its laser at some point. Yeah, there we go. 1. You're going to pretty much go for a count of 5. 2, 3. All right. 4, 5. And then once it disappears, you start booking it. Boom. Start booking it. So maybe it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And once you start booking it, I always run into this issue where this guard sometimes notices me, this guard sometimes doesn't notice me. And you know, honestly, the ideal scenario is that I want the guard to notice me and jump downstairs. Because if he jumps downstairs, I can immediately start booking it over there and get the fastest time possible. Because time is so important for this mission. I think it's fucking asinine that going over 6 minutes, like, you know, gives you an A rank and not an S rank for a mission that's this complicated, with this many enemies, and with the areas that are like kind of this packed and big, and with so many ways to get caught, and with this much commitment. And sometimes like the level can be so linear that like the, you know, the times you have to like slip by the enemy to actually like make it unscathed while ghosting, while rescuing every single prisoner, it deserves to give me more than 6 minutes to solve the whole fucking thing. And it's because of that I actually have to compromise a bit on ghosting. I have to cause a very heavy distraction in order to complete this without going over 6 minutes. And honestly, now that I'm looking back on this, I probably should have done this mission with like the swim trunks, but I didn't. I found a way to S rank this with the jungle fatigue outfit. I was not expecting this mission to be... This is like the second hardest mission in the game, or maybe it is the hardest mission. It's one of the missions I struggled with the most. Top 3 by far. And most of it is with the final area. Like the first 2 areas, I kind of like got them routed down to like a bit of a science. But when it comes to routing these areas down to a science, whenever like I go straight to those stairs to climb them, and 8 times out of 10, that little rover catches a glimpse of me and goes to investigate. And when they go to investigate, it'll spend too much time over there, and I get to just immediately like go over here. But 2 out of 10 times, the rover doesn't notice me and it just continues about its normal pattern, and it's a bit annoying. And here you can do an alternate strategy where instead of like waiting to pass by this guard and then staying by this box to wait for this other guard to turn around, you could just go straight by the box before this guard's even in that position. But then you run into the issue of the rover, which can actually catch sight of you if you do that. So I mean, I've routed this like multiple different ways to save time, but like this is like the safest way to do this. So there's going to be a prisoner over there. One of the enemies is going to catch sight of you, but it doesn't really matter. And then when you're going upstairs, the rover is going to catch sight of you, and you can use that to your advantage because the rover is going to invest. Okay, so whenever the rover like catches sight of you, it does this nasty little thing where it pretty much like scans everything upstairs, and then after it scans what's going on upstairs, it goes downstairs to investigate, just kind of to like catch you off guard, like, oh, it caught sight of me, let me run as quickly as possible. But if you run too quick while like, you know, showing your whole ass upstairs, it's gonna catch sight of you. So you have to do a little bit of hiding, but you don't have to hide for too long before the rover goes to investigate the immediate position which it noticed before. The rover's smart like that. I'm honestly glad that whenever it catches sight of you, it doesn't like immediately like cause an alert. And also the rovers, I think they seem to have some sort of pattern that's based on proximity, because like I think they have a pattern if you're far away from them, but once you get kind of close to their position, I think they change their pattern in order to give you an opening to get past them. So then we have this guard here, who I'm just going to kind of ghost, but if I wanted to save time, I probably should have done the footstep tech, but you know, whatever. Doing the footstep tech this late into the mission just is always so stressful. It's like so easy to fuck up, because it's like, if you fuck it up, you have to do everything over again. So then here, you want to cross this part without getting, okay, so like before I would do the previous sections with the rover catching like sight of me. You do not want the rover to catch sight of you. So like what you want to do is you want to wait for this rover to go downstairs here, and then when it goes like, when it like looks there, and then when it turns that direction, that's your cue to go down here. And I need to get rid of one of the enemies that's upstairs here, because he really fucks me over when I'm trying to escape. So I'm going to put a book there. I'm going to knock down to like pretty much bring him down. Because like before I had a strategy where I would knock to bring him down, but then he would go up too quickly. And when he goes up too quickly, then when I'm trying to escape, he's seeing me through the windows, and it's a whole hassle. So I do kind of have to put him out of commission without using a tranquilizer, without a holdup, but the magazine pretty much puts him out of commission forever. And then once he's out of commission, the only enemy we have to deal with is the guy behind the windows. And the guy behind the windows is one of the most infuriating motherfuckers because he just walks 5 feet from his, like, he has only 2 positions, and the 2 positions which he guards are like 5 feet away from each other. He doesn't go like on a big trek. So when he turns around there, this is your cue to get up here, activate the love box, and start running fast as fuck to this area. Man, it's like just, the commitment has to be real nice. So there's a prisoner right there. And this guy, he either stands there or he stands closer to the prisoner. He doesn't go anywhere else. So I guess one way to maybe do it is maybe you could distract him. But if you distract him to go outside, there's very few spots to hide where he isn't just going to fucking see you. I mean, I guess you could use the love box once again. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to do more ghosty things. I'm trying to use the environment for cover, not the love box. I'm trying to do it. And then here, you have to be very quick to roll here before he looks in that direction. And then we have to wait for this guy to turn around. See, like if I didn't put the magazine downstairs, the other guy typically is already like upstairs and he can see me through the window. And when I try to run here, he just sees me, causes an alert, and it fucks up over the whole mission. And you know, I did get an S rank here, but you got to pay attention to the time here. I think it's fucking asinine that it has to be under 6 minutes. It's like they didn't even account for the fact that I want to ghost it in a cool way. And to be fair, they didn't. The game's not really built around it, but you can do it. Maybe it is built around it, but that time limit, that was a fucking mistake. It needs to be longer than 6 minutes. I don't give a fuck what they think, bruh. It needs to be longer than 6 minutes, but at least I did it under 6 minutes. But when I say I did it under 6 minutes, I of course mean that I got 138 points of heroism. I upgraded my weapon a little bit. 3 seconds off! 3! What a thrill. Now, here's the mission which I knew was going to be bad, because it was by far the hardest one in the original video, because in my original video I did a bunch of cheese tactics to get past everything, but now, even those cheese tactics aren't enough to make this easy. You have to do them to make this like mission doable. So yeah, I mean, the strategy is very specific. So you go to the door, you snipe that guy, you bring out your gun, you destroy this rover. I'm just really glad that I was able to do this mission with the jungle fatigue. Like this mission, I was able to find a way to do it where I didn't have to use the battle uniform. I didn't have to get rid of my uniform to do this mission. So I was able to like kind of keep true to what I wanted to do. So then you take out the rover, you take out the one guy there, and you take out the one guy sniping. And then to go down here, you take out this rover. And when you're going to go upstairs there, you're going to take down 2 guys. And like the strategy I came up with for this section, well, see, before this mission, I used to think was impossible to no damage and S rank. But I figured out the flaw in my plan, and now I have managed to no damage this and S rank this. How? You're gonna have to keep watching. So yeah, get behind this wall and just snipe these dudes with trank ammo. Though I will say it is very embarrassing the way I handled this guy. I like miss every second shot. Like, okay, boom, miss, miss, miss. Okay, now I got him. So then here, we're going to throw a supply marker, and we're going to call for supplies. And here, we're going to switch the last, like, you know, 3, like, we're going to switch up which weapons I want to switch between on the fly while waiting for the supply drops to come down, because for the next 2 areas, I think maybe 2 to 3 areas, I'm never going to use the trank gun again until the final area, because before I routed out, you know, like which people I had to take out when doing all of this. But instead of, you know, messing around with that, we're going to smoke our way through the entirety of these next 2 areas. And then the third area is going to be like a chaff grenade and stun grenades. So right now I can quickly like switch between chaff grenades and stun grenades. And by the time I'm done using the stun grenades and chaff grenades in like the third area, I can, like, you know, open up my inventory and, you know, get my machine gun to do things. So yeah, throw a smoke there, throw a smoke here. You only really need 2 smokes, or rather, it's best you only use 2 smokes, because we need to, like, you know, strategically use the smokes. And, you know, if everything's going really well, you're gonna want to roll off of there perfectly. And sometimes when that guard is out there, you know, in the middle, he tends to fire. So it's best to kind of throw these smoke grenades before that guy's even out. And I just got lucky that he didn't fire at all. So yeah, throw a smoke there, and then throw a smoke there. You're going to want to have like 9 smokes for the next area. And sometimes an enemy will throw grenades in your direction, and it could either be a smoke grenade, a stun grenade, or a grenade. And I really hope that it's a smoke grenade most of the time, because you see, smoke grenade, you don't get damaged. Stun grenade, you don't get damaged. Grenades, you get damaged. However, with stun grenades, despite the fact that you don't get damaged, you do get fucking blinded. And when you're blinded, you can't see fucking shit, and the enemy could maybe get a hit in on you. But I've had multiple attempts where I get stunned and nobody gets a hit in on me. So yeah, we're going to smoke our way through this entire area to save time and ammo, because if I were to use the trank gun ammo, see, the thing about not using the battle suit is that you get less ammo. With the battle suit, you get 40 shots of trank ammo. Without it, you get 32. And if you start using it all over the place, you're bound to run out. So yeah, you go there, you throw that thing, and when the smoke grenade's going to go off, but don't start running until the sniper takes his shot, because until he takes... See, when you're in the smoke and the sniper hasn't like prepared his aim yet, he's not going to be able to get you. But if he's already had his aim trained on you for a while and then you try to go into the smoke, he knows where you are. So you have to kind of watch out for this. And also just kind of throw this guy on the ground to kind of like throw him off, because if you don't do that, it gets kind of weird. And I'm going to stick to the left side. There's going to be like a soldier who's like on the railings there, who if you don't like kind of stun him with a smoke grenade, he's going to get some shots on you. And I'm sure there might be a guy on the right who can do a similar thing. But yeah, no, if you save your smoke grenades, you can pretty much just keep smoking all the way to the end. You might get clipped by gunfire, you know, if you're unlucky, or if you don't plan this well, or if you kind of do things weird. I ran into a couple situations where I like climb all the way to the end and I go into like the orange little hallway, but during the transition, enemy like clips me because they get right behind me and they scream loud as fuck. No, those enemies scream loud as fuck. They go, Aah! Like they really, really want to shoot my ass. I don't know if it happens in this attempt. And see, like the three things I want to quickly switch between is smokes, stuns, and chaffs, and I want to enter this area with a chaff in my inventory immediately on my person, because this section's kind of a crapshoot. Because the very beginning, the enemies are just completely like shooting at you, and you need to run as fast as possible to the left and pray that none of the bullets clip you. So then you throw a chaff, and then once the chaff throws, like is thrown, the rover's going to be stunned for a bit. Throw 3 stun grenades, and by the time you're done throwing 3 stun grenades, that rover's probably going to recover from that one chaff you threw. So throw another chaff, and once that chaff goes off, now we got to open up the inventory to get our little automatic weapon, and then we're going to pretty much blow up this thing. And of course, stay far away enough from that thing when it falls that it doesn't damage you. So yeah, no, my old video was very helpful for, you know, the strategies for this section, but I've had to come up with some new strategies to actually get that S rank and this smokes, and also to, you know, keep in touch with my jungle fatigue thing and not have to carry 3 weapons, smoking my way through the previous 2 areas and then doing this. It works wonders. And then the game's going to do this little fake out where a bunch of bullets shoot you and it does like a rocket. Honestly, the way this part plays out depends heavily on how you handle the previous section. If you fail to take out, like, you know, if you fail to stun all the enemies beforehand, sometimes like new enemies will spawn in when you reach the end of this hallway and they'll start shooting at you, and yeah, I definitely don't want that. But if you stun every single enemy beforehand and you know, shoot the rover down, then all that's going to happen is that some bullets will start flying your way. And I want to enter this next area with the love box, because what I usually do, and what I did in my old video, is that I'll crouch walk all the way to the piece of cover I want to get to. And, you know, like 9 times out of 10 it'll be fine, but, you know, 1 out of 10 times I'll get clipped by a machine gun. But you know what works 10 out of 10 times? Running fast as fuck with the love box to the place. You never get caught by the gunfire. So that works wonders. However, doing this kind of messes up the AI of this one, like, police guard who wants to ambush you. So, honestly, I don't really know how this guy works, but I always want him to come in. But if you run too fast with the love box, sometimes he just stays outside. I think it, like, if you have your back turned to a certain side of the room, he'll try to go in that direction, but I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, once you take that guy out, now you want to take the guy out on this chain gun, and he's such a pain in the ass. I mean, for one, on the PSP, it's hard to notice where he is, and once I have my aim on him, you know, just moving it around, I feel like it's luck-based whether I get a shot or not, because like, there's so many times where I have my reticle right in the middle of him, and nothing lands, and sometimes it feels like my reticle's like way off, and I still get him. But this attempt, you know, I was very locked in. And also, you have to kind of poke out and, you know, really, really hope that you don't get clipped by the helicopter. If like a helicopter starts shooting, just kind of change sides. You don't want to mess with the helicopter's machine gun fire. It's very, very dangerous. Now, how many enemies do you have to take out outside? Honestly, I don't know the exact number. I just got a feel for it. You know, like I need to take out the guy who ambushes you, who enters the building. Then you need to take out the guy on the, like the minigun. And then there's like a few guys to take out on the left. You can kind of know who they are. Like, I think it becomes kind of obvious if you've eliminated all the police people. But what you have to know about these police people is that they all have machine guns except for one who has a rocket launcher. And don't stay out in the open trying to snipe the guy in the rocket launcher for too long, because he's just going to fire at you and it's going to fuck you over. And you definitely want to take out all the police people before tackling the helicopter, because if you don't, then it's just a whole nightmare. Like, one of those guys has a rocket launcher, and you do not want to be standing still in the line of fire of that rocket launcher for too long. So, you know, just kind of spend a few seconds getting a few shots, and if you don't get it, go back into cover. Like, you know, don't risk your life. This is like one of the most pain in the ass sections. You can get clipped so easily. Like, ooh. Boom. But then, boom, now my strategy for the helicopter, this is where that previous video that inspired me comes in. Basically, like, in my old video, I would shoot it with the FI, like, the FIM, like, you know, rocket launcher that has a targeting system, and it would have a whole phase where it just leaves the map. What I didn't know is that when it leaves the map, that's pretty much when you go in to ambush it. But instead of ambushing it with rockets, we just shoot it with this machine gun. The rockets, like, you know, deal like 2,000, 4,000 damage by every shot, but you know, the shots in between, the reload time between shots is like slow. While here, this deals constant damage, 800, 900 every single time you hit it, but you can shoot it for a really, really long time, so the damage adds up a lot quicker than just shooting those rockets. So pretty much, if it's shooting you from like one side of the rooms, go to the other side and try to get it where, you know, it's not facing you, and keep shooting it until it explodes, because I think when it explodes, it tries to go into, like, you know, timeout. You know, like, oh, you know, like, yo, tap out, tap out, tap out, tap out. You know, it's trying to, like, you know, reload itself, but just keep firing at it until it starts exploding and going boom, boom, boom. And then the music starts soaring, and I don't stop talking, because if I stop talking, the video gets copyright claimed. And then pretty much to lock this in, you just stay here with stun grenades and you start throwing them. Just throw all your stun grenades to get rid of the last group of people. Don't waste time. Pretty much, like, if you beat this level by the time, like, the chorus starts, you should be fine if you did everything else the way I did it. But if this song plays twice during, like, you know, your little run here, and yeah, it's gonna be very blinding, you know, like, watch out, fucking bing, bing, bing. But yeah, no, you can't let this song end, because if it ends and it starts looping, then, you know, you took too long, and you're not gonna get that S rank. But if you get to the point where you're just listening to all this, like, dope, like, climactic music at the final part, like you should, then we do that. Before, I threw a bunch of smoke grenades, but stun grenades just works better. And the video which showed me how to deal with a helicopter also did this with these guys, so I just kind of took that for myself, and I completed a mission which I didn't think was possible to S rank. I no damaged it with an S rank, and holy fucking smokes. In my practice run, so in my original Peace Walker video, it took me 15 minutes to do this mission. 15 minutes gets you an A rank. So in my practice runs for doing this on the PS Vita, one of my runs was 12 minutes. The 12-minute run also gets you an A rank. Now, how long did I take for this mission? Well, okay, we gotta skip a couple cutscenes here, and the loading takes a long while to get this cutscene going, because this is like a 3D model cutscene. It's got a big-ass robot. I guess I can understand why it takes a while for, like, the PSP, PS Vita, but once we skip that cutscene, you're gonna find out that it took, I'm on the edge of my seat here, it took him around 53 hero resin points, leveling up. Oh no, what I love is that so many weapons show up, because I had to use so much stuff to do this, like, level. It took him 9 minutes and 29 seconds to get that S rank. Now, can you get an S rank if it's over 10 minutes? I don't know. I know if it's 12 minutes, you don't get the S rank. I know if it's 15 minutes, you won't be the S rank. If it's 11 minutes, you get the S rank. I don't know. If it's 10 minutes 30, do you get the S rank? I don't know. But I did it 9:29. That's the S rank. Those are the strategies. You take no damage, and you do it quickly. And you do it with the jungle fatigue. You don't need the battle suit. That's how you do it. I had hoped that returning to this boss fight, it would be easier, because I would have better weapons to eliminate its health bar more quickly. But then I rewatched my original no damage, and I found out that the weapons I have here are the same ones I had in my original no damage, and I was just equally as fucked. Oh my goodness, yeah, you, like, eliminate the nuclear launch sequence like that, you get far enough away from her so that the roar doesn't affect you, and then you land a shot. And then from here, Peace Walker can do a multitude of things. But the jumping, the way you avoid the jumping is just stay in one of those corners, you know, with all these walls. Peace Walker won't get you when you're in one of those corners, but sometimes when you're in one of those corners, Peace Walker will, like, deliberately try to get up in your face, and you can avoid that as long as she doesn't do the flamethrower. If she does the freeze attack, I love the freeze attack, but yeah, no, it's that I have the same weapons. The fight's gonna take about the same amount of time, and it was a hard fucking fight to do in my original video. It was like the only robot fight that gave me a challenge. So the strategy I like to do with the drill missiles is that you know, like the Peace Walker stands still when the drill missiles happen, and you know, you get to land a shot, but then you have to start running away. Peace Walker could jump, and when she jumps and she lands like right on top of you, she can stun you, and if she stuns you long enough for the drill missiles to pretty much like drill up your ass, then yeah, you get fucked. So I like to pretty much just go to the next hidey hole and then equip the love box at some point if she jumps, because if she jumps and I have the love box equipped and she doesn't step on me, I don't take damage, I don't get stunned because I have the love box on, and if she roars, I don't get stunned, but I removed the love box at the wrong time, so I got stunned for a little bit, but you know, it didn't affect me. But yeah, no, drill missile is just annoying like that, so whenever a drill missile happens, I go from one hidey hole to the next hidey hole. And sometimes with the love box, if you want to get somewhere quicker, then you just kind of do that. Because you have to keep constant motion so the drill missiles don't hit you. And you know, you could take care of the drill missiles by just shooting them before they go fully in the ground. But I only brought 2 weapons and they're both rocket launchers. And I'm not using the battle suit. I'm wearing the jungle fatigue. I don't even know if this outfit is called the jungle fatigue. I might just be making that up. But to be fair, in my original no damage video, I also wasn't wearing the battle suit. I wore like a naked outfit with like pink colors, which I don't know how I got it because I don't have it on the PSP. I guess I didn't S rank a certain extra op, or I didn't collect a certain document. And like Peace Walker has like so many different attacks with so many different implications, and I don't know how to explain all of it. Like, it's all fucking mush in my head. Like, this fight is like, sometimes it can be instinct. Like, for example, when Peace Walker like crawls like behind the boxes, you know, like the one that's behind me right now, it likes to do a thing where it just stomps you, but the stomping thing it does is really predictable and slow and pretty much gives you time to land shots. And sometimes Peace Walker will do this thing where it kind of gets in the water, and it can either do a nuclear launch sequence or it can fire rocket launchers. When she fires rocket launchers from the water, that can be a pain to deal with. That can be a huge pain to deal with. But when she does something like, you know, shoot drill missiles, great. When she does a nuclear launch sequence, great. And then when she gets to the point where, you know, she starts doing this stuff, you gotta start, you know, using the chaff grenade. Did you see how when I used the chaff grenade, when she was shooting the drill missile, she stands completely still? That's beautiful. I love that. But yeah, like, so after you throw a chaff grenade and land a shot, she's gonna start trying to run at you as with, you know, as a horsey. And when she runs at you like a horsey, you have to be in one of these hidey holes, or you just risk taking damage. Because you could kind of like avoid that if you roll a certain way, or if you're in the right area, if your positioning is correct. But the way you avoid it consistently is being in one of these hidey holes. Like, a majority of this fight is seeing how much time you can spend in this hidey hole. Also, a good... Yeah, but don't spend too much time in the hidey hole, or sometimes Peace Walker will pull shit like that. So, you know, you're not completely safe, but being in the hidey hole is like one of the best places to be. And then during this playthrough, I really fell in love with the law weapon. Just having fast reloads does so much for me. Though, to be fair, the Cargo Stuva is still like the best one, because just it's the sort of thing where you can point at something and shoot and it immediately goes there. While with the other rocket launchers, their speed isn't that good. So you could point, shoot at something, you could see it start going there, and if the enemy makes like a slight, you know, little like nudge, starts shaking its hips a certain way, it misses. So that's kind of sad to see. And yeah, you need supply drops. But this is the hardest like boss in the game, I guess, aside from trying to stealth the helicopter or something. But the helicopter's not very hard. It's just annoying. Like, this fight takes very long. Its phases like require, like, you know, commitment to avoid, and the missile sometimes can curve in a way that fucks you over. And this attempt actually took longer than my old video because I got unlucky in certain instances. But I still got that S rank though, and I still got that no damage. So that's very, very nice. But yeah, I don't know what else I gotta tell you about the Peace Walker's phases. I will say one thing is that once it's like at 3 or 2 health bars, it starts pissing fire and doing like a dumb little dance. So, you know, be careful about that one. I think you can generally avoid most of the things she does if you just kind of, once again, go to one of the hidey holes. A lot of the stuff that Peace Walker does, you gotta counter by smart usage of those little hidey holes. It's not even a hole. It's just like the, you know, 2 walls protecting you and a little barrier there. But yeah, whenever Peace Walker does this, it's awesome. Because it's so predictable, and it stands still, and you just get to line up a shot. And then if you have both of your like rocket launchers reloaded, but then once Peace Walker does this, you gotta go to the other side of the map. And you gotta hope that Peace Walker doesn't jump in a way that damages you or stuns you, and also you gotta hope that the drill missiles don't drill you. I believe now Peace Walker is gonna start pissing itself. Because like it kind of like dukes you out by looking back, and then it immediately does like this little like twist. It's like some MMA type shit. It's like Peace Walker does the equivalent of like a backhand. by pulling this move. Like, you just don't see it coming. It like charges its piss, it like turns its back to you, and then suddenly, boom, just turns around. It's like, that's something a skunk would do. There's also like a bunch of attacks I haven't told you how to deal with yet. Like, there's this attack she does when she goes, freeze! That's one of the best attacks she can do, because you just run away from the laser to the point where the laser can't reach you, and then you have a free shot at the weak point. I love that. But then again, when you try to bait out the laser, sometimes the flamethrower can come out, and the flamethrower can be really annoying. Like, boom, there we go, freeze. I did run into a really funny occurrence where if the laser hits you and you're blocking it with the shield, the laser just breaks the shield. I don't even think this laser damages you. It just like saps away at your stamina. Okay, so her firing the rocket launcher from that close, scary as fuck. I don't even know where it landed, but that's really, really scary. Yeah, no, when this happened, I'm like, yeah, I won. There we go. But one of the most aggravating things about this fight is that this is one of the toughest like fights. It's one of the longest ones. You're firing multiple body parts, so you're like, okay, when I get in there, I'm gonna get some dope ass parts for Zeke, right? And then you get in there, and you get fucking nothing. Everything you do inside that AI pod is relegated to just like story progression. There's nothing to get for the progression of the game. The only time you actually get to take parts from Zeke is in the extra ops where the fight is even fucking longer. But like when you shoot at Zeke, you do shoot parts of its body. You know, you shoot it, boom. You see all those little like S marks and those M marks. And you know, I mean, if you've played Peace Walker, you know what those are. But the S and the M marks and all those like colorful like letters that show up when you fire at a part of a body correlates to a part of that body. Like the S is the head, the M is I don't know, and the pink C is like something else. But yeah, you shoot at those parts and then you get nothing for your efforts because it's just this story moment where you just pull out like, you know, neutral AI boards, which just represent the brain. You get nothing for all your efforts in this story aside from the completion of said story. You complete it for the sake of itself, for its own sake. Dun 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 dun. I don't know the rhythm of that song. Today is the second day of recording my commentary because this video is 3 hours long and it was like 12 yesterday. So I think continuing the recording of that commentary at that time would have been inefficient, and also I wouldn't have been able to fully, like, go if it was like 12. So now it's 12 again, except it's in the daytime, not the nighttime. And I don't have too many points left on my outline. There's a couple things I wanted to mention earlier, which I didn't mention, like in Main Ops 14, if your inventory is full, you can't get the ID card without removing some of your equipment. So you come in with full equipment, you're gonna have to go into that inventory menu and, you know, drop off some things. You know, I think there's people who've played Peace Walker who maybe don't even know that you can remove stuff from your inventory. I can't think of a mission that does that. And there's people who probably don't know that, you know, removing the love box actually makes it a physical object you can use to climb over stuff in certain parts of the game. Like, that's really cool. I mean, I never used that ability in my original Peace Walker video, but here I use it every now and then. Not all the time, because I feel like sometimes it feels like borderline cheating, but other times it creates some of the most fun strategies. But just, like, the game never tells you can do that unless it does, maybe in one of the briefing files, because each of this game's missions tend to be pretty short. But you could go into like this menu with briefing files, which has like, you know, minutes and minutes and minutes, maybe hours and hours of briefing about the area. You know, you'll get info dumped about that specific location or Nicaragua. You know, like all the stuff that usually comes in the codec is just completely optional, and you can just beat the mission in 2 minutes and get all the context from like the cutscenes which are in that mission, and you're pretty much good. But you could listen to like 20 minutes of briefing that would just feel a lot more. It would take longer to listen to all the briefings than to beat all the missions in the game, which is a little funny. And also the hunter style of control. I should have used the precise aiming in the main Ops 24 more. Like, I use it near the beginning, but right at the very end, when I have to snipe that guy in the minigun, the precise aiming would have been a godsend, and for some reason I just never used it. So the timer on this mission is very, very like long. You will be able to remove every single one of these tiles before that thing ever runs out. If that thing runs out and you didn't remove all the tiles, I don't know what you're doing. But looking at this part of the game, the presentation just impresses me a lot. And it's not just the graphics, because yeah, like the graphics are a bit dated, you know, the PSP, the models can't move anything, but the UI I think constantly like impresses me when I'm playing throughout the game. And yeah, this is the work of professionals. This game, from what I understand, if you go through the credits, has the same number of people working on it as Metal Gear Solid 4. I think this game was meant to be Metal Gear Solid 5. It was meant to be the continuation to 4, despite being on a handheld console, despite not having as much like graphical powers as the PS3. This was meant to be the continuation. This is the next big game, and the UI is just awesome. Like all the menus you navigate, all like the beeps, bloops, blops. This screen right here, where it kind of goes in there, the contrast with like the white, the black, the kind of gray, the logo in the background, the gold there, going from black and kind of like going across with like, yellow. I might be saying some things which might be like very, very obvious to some people, but just the UI is really cool. The way the health bar looks, I think that looks dope. The little inventory on the right, yeah. The camo, okay, I don't know, I'm not so sure about the camo. And of course, this isn't unique to Peace Walker. The Metal Gear Solid series has always separated itself by having just really solid presentation, like especially in audio. Like the very first Metal Gear Solid, all the beeps and boops in the menu, fucking phenomenal, dude. And yeah, part of this might just be the graphics are really good, but I don't think it goes that far, because there's some games with amazing graphics, ray tracing and all that, but their UIs are like whatever. It's like, who cares? But other games have UIs that just really stand out. It's like, wow, this looks really cool. Another game which kind of like gave me that feeling was No More Heroes Travis Strikes Again. A game whose like graphics aren't all that, and there's some areas of that game that look pretty ugly, but the UI is really nice. Like the way that game kind of makes its health bars just kind of take up the left and right side of the screens, creating like a 4:3 aspect ratio for the gameplay. That's a really fun way to, get a 4:3 aspect ratio, but also still be full screen. Now this game's not 4:3. So honestly, I think there might be less differences between this version of the game and the PS3 version of the game than, say, Metal Gear Solid 2 on the PS2 and Metal Gear Solid on the PS3, because Metal Gear Solid 2 went from a 4:3 game to a 16:9 game. Though, okay, graphical quality definitely improved a lot more from this part all the way to Peace Walker. I was wondering if it was more fun to play this game on the PSP, PS Vita versus the PS3, because one issue on the PS3 is just that the game is too easy. And it's kind of like, does playing it, it's like, oh, they made the game too easy because, you had to play it on the PSP and there were some awkward controls. But does playing it on the PSP, like, justify how easy the game is? Like, does it feel, like, more natural that, the enemies are kind of dumb because I can't aim as well? And, to be fair, I can't really fully comment on this because I didn't play it on the PSP. I played it on the PS Vita, and I have a second control stick, which already gives me a huge advantage over the normal PSP. But I would say no. Honestly, like, the game still feels like too easy. If it's on the PSP, it still feels too easy. If it's on the PS3, and the challenge only really comes when those extra ops start kicking your ass like crazy. But the thing that really, like, transformed my experience with Peace Walker was just going for this ghost run. I really started to appreciate the game a lot more because of that. And I think it's the same on the PS Vita. It's the same on the PS3. And yeah, I really, okay, when I say about how cool the UI is, that part with the loading screen where, that little thing that's been in the bottom right corner of the game the entire time suddenly starts like flooding the screen, that's a dope touch. When it changes for this little part right here, for this quote, that's a dope touch. If I ever do a video on the extra ops, I should probably read this book or like poem or whatever that Kojima got that quote from. We have reached what I originally called the wet fart section of the game. Though in replaying it and going for the ghosting method, I've come to appreciate it more, though I will say this mission has two elements that make it a huge pain in the ass. Number one, random spawns. Zadornov could be in either Rio de Jade or the Banana Place, and he could be in separate locations depending on how the game rolls the dice. Number two, this game has a very strict timer. I forget exactly how short your thing has to be to get an S rank, but I ran into a situation where if you want to ghost this entire level and get all the prisoners and do it on time, you're kind of fucked unless things line up perfectly well. So what you do for this area, you wait for that guy to turn around and then you can run here. In this area, if you want to rescue all the prisoners, requires quite a bit of backtracking and also going through the same area twice. But the path that I want to take, and the path which is most beneficial if you want to get the best time to get Zadornov and all the prisoners, is that I really need him to spawn in the Banana Place. Because if Zadornov doesn't spawn in the Banana Place, then you have to go to the Banana Place first to get the prisoners. Then you have to run back to a Rio de Jade. But when you go to Rio de Jade, you're going to have to backtrack through more areas than going here first and then going to the Banana Place. So it's just the most efficient way. So if Zadornov's not here, if he doesn't spawn here, then the prisoner's going to be in the boathouse. So you have to climb up the boathouse, and the way I do it is that I pretty much run across the map, and then I wait for that guy to turn around, and then I run here, And yeah, figuring out the fastest way to do this was pretty fun. And you have to be careful when you're up here, because if you make too much noise, the guy who's like inside the boathouse downstairs, he's going to hear your footsteps and he's going to try to climb up the stairs. You can actually pretty much sneak past the guy when he does this, because when he starts climbing the stairs, his like sight line is completely gone. So you can literally just drop here and he could be like climbing the stairs right at that moment and nothing happens. But I'm just not going to risk it, because it is quicker to just get out of there and not wait for him to climb the stairs. So then once we pass this guy here, not sure what strategy I'm going to take right now, but I also just really like the Zadornov missions because I really appreciate revisiting some of these past areas. And now I'm finally doing a ghosting objective. And now that I have to like ghost this area, it's become a lot more interesting because I'm not just taking out everyone. I have to get inside the boathouse and then get out of it. Okay, one of the most interesting things about ghosting is like infiltration, then exfiltration. I think there might be times in like the Metal Gear Solid Saga where some of the games just don't really like explore the concept of exfiltrating an area. Portable Ops was a game which had level design that was just begging for objectives like that, where you get in and you get out. Getting out is still an interesting thing, because once you get in and you get the thing you want, you're still there. The enemies are still there, but you have to leave. Leaving is still like an important stealth challenge, but a lot of the time in Portable Ops, you infiltrate, you do the thing, and then the game just kind of cuts to menu. It's like, oh, you're done, you did it. And Peace Walker is generally also like that, but in some of these extra missions or some of these extra ops, and sometimes in the main story, Peace Walker like kind of dabbles in kind of like exfiltration. Though I don't think it fully captures the highs of something like Portable Ops' level design, because Portable Ops really focuses in on like singular structures you have to infiltrate, buildings and all that, while this game just has these little bubbles which represent these little like stealth challenge rooms. So it doesn't really feel like you have to like exfiltrate out of an entire area, but you're just kind of going from challenge room to challenge room. And the game makes like good use of its challenge rooms, you know, like you enter from one way, the enemies are placed this way. You enter from the other way, the enemies like placements change. And also sometimes like there's branching paths, so you have to know which path to take. So there's a little bit of work there, but I don't think it reaches the high highs of, okay, the Phantom Pain like really brought exfiltration together, though the Phantom Pain also kind of shoots itself in the foot by calling the helicopter takes so long. So if you really want to exfiltrate an area, it takes a while. So you have to do the footstep tech, because if I don't do the footstep tech, I waste time. And this mission is very, very focused on good time management to get that S rank and get all the prisoners. Another reason I don't want Zadornov in the boathouse is because depending on where Zadornov spawns and when you like Fulton him and pretty much complete the mission, pretty much like the mission will kind of spawn in like an exit point, kind of like a yellow square that once you enter it, you get to leave the mission. The yellow square that shows up when Zadornov shows up in any other place that's not the boathouse is very convenient. It's basically like right next to him. But if you rescue Zadornov at the boathouse, the spawn to leave the level is outside the boathouse. So you have to manage, you know, the enemy that's like, you know, standing like in front of the boathouse and the enemy that's inside the boathouse to reach that objective, and it just requires a lot more patience and planning than any other area where Zadornov might spawn. So you really want Zadornov to spawn somewhere else that's just not the boathouse in order to do this run, this strategy, and also so that, you know, the spawn point is in a nice place that's like immediately in front of you instead of having to do extra work to get to it to end the mission. Unless you want that work, you want to like take it on, but the way I kind of routed things out here is the best way, I think. I can't think of a faster way to get through this. And also, I'm ghosting this guy. Okay, I can think of faster ways to do it. You could, like, abuse the footstep tech more if you really, really wanted to. You can use the swim trunks to run faster if you really, really wanted to. But I was able to manage this with, like, kind of the jungle outfit and that camo. Just kind of keeping that going. Though, for these Zadornov missions, I have decided to indulge in carrying the tranquilizer gun instead of the assault rifle for that extra bit of camo. You know, these missions are slightly harder than, like, you know, their main story, like, variants. Well, these missions are the variants. The main story ones are, like, the original ones than the originals. So I'm just getting that little bit of extra camo by carrying the tranq gun and not carrying my assault rifle everywhere. Though carrying the assault rifle everywhere was kind of cool for those main ops. And this is still a main op. But right now, I'm just gonna take a little bit of extra camo. So yeah, you know, you kind of follow the path I'm taking here, and then you go here. And also, yeah, exfiltrating out of this banana place is also more challenging than, like, exfiltrating out of some of the other areas. Or rather, like, not having to exfiltrate out of this area once you rescue Zadornov is very, very useful. So yeah, once that guy turns around, we have to do a mad dash to pretty much, like, hold up Zadornov, because the enemy's gonna be there, but he's not gonna be there for long. He's gonna move somewhere. And there he is. So I really need him to be here. And if he's not here, basically reload the mission if you want to get an S rank and get all the prisoners. So then you also have to be really quick because then the enemy's going to move. He's going to be like staring out like, you know, to the right there for a little bit of time. But soon he will turn to face you if you're not fast enough. So you got to be really quick about this. And let's see just how much time I spent on this. Because if you go overboard, you don't get the S rank. But it's like, man, I really want to rescue the prisoners and get the S rank. And this actually becomes a bigger complication in a later mission. It's like... It's asinine. There's like certain like time requirements where I'm like, the game in no way accounted for the fact that I wanted to ghost and get the prisoners. Like there's no way the game expects me to rescue all the prisoners and get an S rank. I think if you go over 6 minutes, that's what like kills your S rank. But you saw how fast I was being in like most of these areas. You really have to like go all in this like place. Now this mission is so easy, it's ridiculous compared to what I was doing beforehand. Like I struggled a bit to kind of route what I did before here, but for this one to ghost it, just literally go to this guy, get him. There's no prisoners to get. And honestly, if they like placed a prisoner in like an area that's like 2 bubbles away, that would have been asinine. But yeah, no, you just go after the really hard mission, now you have a really easy mission. So then there's going to be Zadornov missions like 3, 4, 5, and 6. 3 is going to be like kind of challenging. 4 is going to be very challenging. 5 is going to be... Wait, actually, no. Now that I'm thinking about it, this makes no sense. Okay, I don't think 3 is going to be too bad. 4 might be a pain in the ass. 5 will be hard, but not that much of a pain in the ass. And 6 will be piss easy. I was actually surprised to find out there were 6 Zadornov missions and not 7. I don't know, a little deja vu. Deja vu. So this mission is going to require you to go through like nearly the entirety of the Cloud Forest segment, but I forget exactly what the gimmick with getting Zadornov is, because, what, is he going to be hidden? Oh no, I do remember what the gimmick is. I don't know if he has a random spawn, but with the place he spawns in that I want him to spawn in is just kind of, it's hard to see him. Like, I know the last time I did this mission in my original video, I used the Soliton radar to find him, so I guess for this mission, just follow the same path that I'm taking. Some of the enemy placements have been changed, and some of them can be kind of challenging to get around. But we basically have to reach the ending here. There's going to be some prisoners, I think, like, in the place where you fight the helicopter, there'll be a prisoner, so you have to go there. And for all I know, like, you know, if the game rolls the dice correctly, maybe Zadornov will show there, but I really want Zadornov to show up in the final area, just so that I have an excuse to actually sneak through every single area this mission presents. Like, it just kind of feels like a waste when this mission has, like, let's say 5 bubbles, but getting to Zadornov only takes like two or 3. It's like, what happened to the other 2 bubbles? You didn't solve those challenges. You know, it's kind of like the completionist in me is like saying, I really want to go through every single one of these areas. Maybe not this beach area, but... No, this isn't a beach area. Maybe not this helicopter area. But the helicopter area does have a prisoner, so I'll go there, I'll get the prisoner. And the way you enter the next area from the helicopter area, I think gives me a better advantage. The time limit here isn't too bad. It's just that figuring out where all the snipers are and how to get past them and like how the placements work, that definitely threw me for a loop, so I definitely had to grind this mission out quite a bit. But I didn't feel like I had to like overly optimize every little thing I did just so I can like, you know, get the mission on time. This mission also just doesn't have any backtracking. It's a straight shot to the place to get Zadornov. I mean, I don't even know how they would implement backtracking. It's like the way the bubbles are placed out, it's a straight line. You know, you go from one to the other. You can maybe skip the little helicopter area if you don't want to rescue all the prisoners, but I do want to rescue all the prisoners. So the prisoners are all placed on the same straight line. I don't have to take any detours that could waste my time and not get me that S rank like the very first mission. And I guess I'm really running out of things to say in this game, but I keep mentioning the extra ops, and I do plan on doing streams of this game where I go through all the extra ops and I try to S-rank and no damage every single one of them, because I haven't seen a video where someone S-ranks and no damages all of them. But I'm just worried, is it even possible? From what I've played, I think it's generally possible, but then there's like certain like helicopter and tank boss fights that take so long that if you play it like a stealth game, and you know, you don't fight the tank and you like exfiltrate every single person and you make the tank run over every single enemy, it's going to take too long to get the S rank. Though I've had some where when I do that strategy, it does give me the S rank. You know, like the fight will take like 9 to 11 minutes, but I'll still get the S rank. 9 to 11 minutes for that fight is ridiculous, but it does work for some of those like armored vehicle fights, tank fights, helicopter fights. But I'm just wondering, like, how far can that be pushed? And yeah, for these sniper sections, just follow the exact same path I'm taking. But for this one, there's something very particular you have to know. There's a sniper right there, and it seems like the only way I got past this sniper is with my camo and by walking real slowly while crouched. Very rarely do I have to do that, but with the way the sniper's positioned there and the path I take, I have to do it this way. Like, yeah, look at that. The sniper's right there. Like, I'm right in his eyesight, but I guess if I just slowly kind of crawl, I mean, not crawl, crouch, like, sneak like this, I can get past this guy. And I'm just not 100% sure what his, like, line of vision is, but look at him, he's right there. Like, the way they place the snipers in this area in particular is a lot stricter than it used to be. Because, like, before, you could just kind of go all the way right or all the way left, or you go through the middle, and then you cut up the stairs, and they don't see you. But here, they're, like, looking straight at the best places to cut across them, and it's like, whoa. Maybe there was a way to use the love box to kind of make it easier, but the way I did it was pretty cool, and thankfully the time requirement isn't so bad that it screws you over. And, like, when I was returning to this mission, I did the mistake where I just immediately ran past this first guy because I thought that's what the strategy was, but then I rewatched my old main op, and I realized, oh, you have to wait for this guy to get into position before running past him, or wait for him to, like, turn his head away from you. You don't just immediately run. So the strategy I did beforehand mostly still works here, but some of the enemy placements have been toyed around with. The guy who's here isn't here anymore. He's somewhere else. And there's like a bigger deal made of like this little cube like to the left of me. And hey, there's a prisoner right there. So it is funny how the Phantom Pain like really made a big deal about how much noise the Fultons make, because in Peace Walker they're like completely silent. So, you could just get the enemy, you could rescue the prisoners like right next to the enemies and like nothing happens. But that extra ops video, you have to keep in mind. So, okay, so there's an enemy here, and there's an enemy over there, and Zadornov is by the enemy that's over there. So we really have to cut across and do a whole bunch of funny things to get past everything without the enemies getting distracted. Without their line of sight, like, correlating with them getting distracted and, hunting you down. But yeah, so there's 33 main ops, and no damaging and ghosting all 33 main ops. I have a 3-hour long video here. So there's Zadornov right there. He actually blends in pretty well with the environment. Like, it's very easy to miss him. And if he doesn't spawn here, I don't know where he spawns, and I don't want him to spawn anywhere else in this game, because he's like, there was one time I did this mission, he didn't spawn here, so I just kept exploring the map over and over and over. I never found him, so wherever else he might hide, I guess he's just really well camouflaged. But if you want to have a fun run where you do all the areas and sneak and have good gameplay, you want him to spawn there so you can get the most bang for your buck, or rather the most flair for your bear. I don't fucking know. But yeah, there's 33 main ops, and it's a 3-hour long video. There's around 120 extra ops, so let's do some algebra here. So, 120, wait, no. So, 3 hours is like 33, let's simplify that to 30. So 120 divided by 30, let's count it out. 30, 60, 90, 120, okay, so 30 times 4 equals 120. So 30 is 3 hours. 3 times 4 equals 12 hours. It would be a 12-hour video. And now, hey, why are you wearing the swim trunks? Because this mission's time limit is fucking bullshit! Oh! Like, out of all the things in this game, out of all the things in the main ops, I would have never imagined in a million years that one of the Zadornov missions would be the one which would force me to wear a different outfit. But the time limit for this mission, if you want to rescue all the prisoners, is asinine. Oh, man. And I screamed too loud. I'm getting calls from the neighbors. So not only did my screaming wake up the neighbors, it also gave me the hiccups, which I hope don't show up again when I have to keep complaining about this mission. The strategies I follow are very specific. I really should explain what I'm doing here, because if you don't do exactly what I'm doing, you're fucked if you want to get all the prisoners and the S rank. So for the first area, just follow the same path I did there. For the second area, you have to stand up as quickly as possible and just start like running the exact same path I did. And if you don't do it quick enough, the enemy which you run past will be looking straight at you and will cause an alert phase. And then for this area, you have to go to that tree, you have to wait for the enemy to turn around, you activate the love box, you follow the same path I do there, and then you just keep running with the love box as fast as possible. Then you go here, you wait for that guy to turn around, and then you're pretty much free to run through this area, but it's all very specific timing. If you do it any different, you're bound to get fucked by something. Like, there's a guy in the watchtower who, if you're not quick enough with all this, he's just going to look straight at you, and it's going to fuck up your whole sight lines. Like, the guys who are upstairs in that previous area, like on the you know, the bridges or whatever, they're far more dangerous in this mission than, like, in the main ops, in, like, the main story main ops. So, yeah, here, this area is not so bad, but we're going to do some things which are pretty risky. So we have to go up here. So there's no enemies there. Then we have to climb the stairs, and we have to be very quick about what we do when we climb the stairs. So once we're at the top of the stairs, we're going to have to use the love box to cross this barrier before the enemy over there catches sight of us. And, you know, this is not as hard as that previous mission where you have to, like, you know, use the invisible tech by Duran, but it's still like a bit of a challenge if you keep fucking up your positioning. You have to run really, really quickly to rescue this prisoner. Then you have to go upstairs. You have to kind of like, you know, do this standing, right? You're going to be standing here, and then before we enter that door, we're going to go crouching, because if we run standing, we're going to be too exposed for the enemy that's like right to our right. Then we're going to stand up here quickly. We're going to like hang and do that, because doing the rolling tech, I think, just makes you too visible, and it's like too inconsistent. And then from here, we're going to keep standing. Like, the amount of time you can stay standing and running will save you a ton of time. Again, I needed to use the swim trunks to run as fast as possible. You basically unlock these by dating a woman, pretending to be a minor, then going back to get the fucking swim trunks, and now you can run fast enough to S-rank this mission. It's fucking asinine how fucking, like, fast you have to be. So then I go here, I, like, knock on here to distract this guy. I walk slowly here because I'm waiting for the guy in the watchtower to turn around, and the guy's, like, you know, like, not in the watchtower, but in the bridges, I swear they have, like, AI behaviors based on proximity, because they'll just, like, stand in the same exact location if you don't get close enough. But if you get close enough in a certain time period, they'll turn around way quicker. They kind of have, like, a similar thing going on, like with the drones. Like, the drones in that one main op, like, in the final, like, you know, main story sneaking mission, like, you know, they'll start doing the things which allow you to get past them once you get close enough. So yeah, here, I like to roll into that guy and do this. And now I'm going to start crouch walking for dear life. I don't know what the exact timing of this is, that you can go past this fence without the other guy seeing you, but I think crouch walking helps a lot with this, because sometimes I've been able to do this fully standing up, but I just fuck it up too many times. So, you know, like 2 out of 10 times, if I do it fully standing up, I get past him, but 8 out of 10 times I get caught. So adding in the crouch walking there just kind of helped me. But in terms of timing, it's really specific. And now we reach the final part of the mission. And if Zadornov isn't in the right house, you are fucked! So he needs to be like in the area right to your right there, and you need to be really, really fast to cross past this enemy. Like, look at the timing there. You have to, like, immediately, like, you know, jump off over the box, get in here, go into this house, and then knock on this door. And if Zadornov's not here, you have to basically, like, restart the mission. You have to fucking load up the slot machines again and just roll it again until you get it. So I was struggling so hard to do this with the jungle fatigue. Like, the first time I did it successfully, I got a time of 6 minutes and 50 seconds, and I'm like, wow, this is a pretty long mission, you know? Okay. Let's see that rank. Boom, A rank. Oh, fuck. They want me to optimize my time better than 6 minutes and 50, like, you know, seconds for all the stuff you have to do in the mission? They're crazy. Whatever, let me give it a go. So I optimized all my strategies to be much quicker, and then I got 4 minutes and 50 seconds. And wouldn't you know, 4 minutes and 50 seconds was still an A rank. So now I do it with the swim trunks, and 3 minutes and 51 seconds. Okay, now that's an S rank. That's how fast you have to be. And if you noticed, I optimized my strategies with the swim trunks to the absolute max. So I just don't see how it's possible to S-rank that mission and get all the prisoners and ghost the game without the swim trunks. Someone please prove me wrong, because, like, this game just did not account for ghosting and getting the prisoners. Like, that's what I mean, that the prisoners aren't important. They're, like, such a nothing objective that the game didn't account, like, their timer for it, but it still is possible to rescue all the prisoners and S-rank the mission and ghost the game, but it's fucking bullshit! Oh, man. So yeah, that mission got me heated. Like, I never expected that to be, like, a top 3 hardest mission in the game, to pretty much S-rank Ghost and do all that, but, like, there was so much bullshit involved with doing all those objectives back to back to back. I mean, hey, at least it's not the sneaking suit, and getting the swim trunks does come with its own challenges. You have, like, your camo fucking sucks. So, you know, you can't do exactly the same things as with the jungle fatigue, but you do run much faster, which lets you do more things. I really should have talked about what I did in the beginning of this main op, I mean, right now I'm using the footstep tech, so I can immediately, like, run past this guy on the stairs, you know, because if I wait for this guy to turn around, by the time I get over here, the guy on the stairs isn't going to be in the best place for me to quickly get past him. But what I do in the very beginning is very peculiar. You have to follow a certain path, and then you get to a point where I spam the love box to get around an enemy quickly enough before he turns around, because every time I just run normally to get past him, he's so fucking quick, and your timing has to be really precise. But if you kind of do it with the love box and, you know, kind of speed up that way, your timing doesn't have to be that precise. So this main op is pretty challenging, because this is the main op which I did in the story, you know, like, which just, I did really crazy strats, and now I want to do those crazy strats again. I do think the strats are a little bit more lenient, because I messed up with the love box like 2 or 3 times here, and I still reached the guy on time, but I still have to do the invisible, like, you know, standing still tech by Duran Duran to get past this guy, but it does seem like the timing is a little bit more lenient. I do appreciate that. Okay, maybe not that lenient, because, I mean, I rolled right there and the guy turned around. I guess I just got better at doing it. And the final area, the enemy placements have been, like, increased in certain, like, numbers, which makes getting past that area harder. So this time, I'm actually going to take the shortcut, which pretty much, like, you never go on the top of the level. Because I already showed that off during the main story, but now that we're in Chapter 5, I'm going to do the most efficient way to get past this part. But the most efficient way is still risky. I can't just run to the barrel because there's an enemy, like, right in front of it now. So now I'm going to kind of cut across here. I'm going to cut across here. Then I'm going to cut across these barrels. And then I'm going to wait for this guy to get to a certain position before I cut across from there. There's also more guys upstairs and also downstairs. Just more guys all around. Like, it's a real party. It's a, like, real fiesta to get around everything. So here we're going to cut around here, and hopefully the people upstairs only think that there's somebody there and nothing else important. So the shortcut is you pretty much start hanging from here and you kind of go from there. Now, why do you have to, like, this just looks kind of ridiculous. Why couldn't you just jump from below to catch the ledge there? Because this game doesn't have a jump button. And I think if you activate the love box, you still can't exactly hang from there. But yeah, you have to, like, do this whole little, like, complicated, like, zigzaggy thing to get to this area. Now that you're in this area, all you have to do is jump out the window to leave the area instead of having to sneak up upstairs. So I guess the only challenge is, do you know this exists? Because there's people who just straight up don't know that this exists. Curve, who made a video about how whether or not you can beat Peace Walker without any weapons, throughout the video, like, he said, there's only one way to get past this section. And no, he was wrong. There's 2 ways. This is the second way. But there's still an enemy downstairs here, and I'm just really scared to jump out the window right now. I want him to turn around, and then I'm going to jump out, because this mission is, like, quite long, and if you mess up at this point, you have to do everything else all over again. So this is a challenging op, but I respect this op. Like, you know, like, this mission in the original game, no, not in the original game, but in the original op was also challenging. It's like, you know, like the end of the Chapter 1 sneaking, though. Yeah, like, I mean, the Zadornov missions only really, like, take the sneaking areas. Every single sneaking area in the Zadornov missions is, like, right up before, like, right up to the mine base. After the mine base, like, the Zadornov missions don't remix the ones inside the facility. You know, the ones which are housing, you know, like the Peace Walker project or the other fucking Pupas. Those areas are already hard enough in the main story, so, you know, they didn't really need to remix them and make them harder. They were already pretty hard. But it is just kind of a little funny that the Zadornov missions don't go that far and have you, like, replay the entire game. They only revisit, like, these areas from, like, chapters 1, 2, and 3. Oh, but no, actually, no. The only one they revisit from chapter 3 is the one that, you know, at the mine base, which is kind of easy. Now, before, like, in the main story, when you first get to this area, it's like, wow, if you rescue all the prisoners and, like, you know, goes through all the enemies, this becomes a much more interesting level. The Zadornov mission actually does the opposite and makes it less interesting. I believe there's 0 prisoners to rescue, and all you have to do is hope that Zadornov spawns in the right location, you get him and you leave, and the mission takes less than a minute. So usually this would be the other way around. You know, like, the original story mission would be the easier version that you could blitz through, and then the Zadornov mission would add some complication that would have you, like, you know, stay in the level longer, but with the way I've set things up, no. The only thing that's complicated is that his spawn can be kind of random, but he's going to be in one of these love boxes. But if he's in this one, you just go to him, you get him, and you leave. It's like the second Zadornov mission. And I guess what kind of tickles me funny about this one is this is the last one. This is the last Zadornov mission, so, like, this is how they cap off, you know, revisiting the game through the main ops, and then we have a boss fight, and then, you know, all the main ops are over. It's like, oh, okay. But yeah, no, I mean, I hope that my commentary has been interesting because I have neglected to kind of go deep into certain topics. Like, this game has a whole breadth of references from, like, literature, poets, films, and that's the sort of stuff that'd be really interesting to dig into. But if my extra ops video is going to be 12 hours long, I think it's best to save all that information to commentate during the 12-hour long video instead of the video where I didn't need all that stuff and I still talked about it. So I decided to make the color scheme of my Zeke Buzz Lightyear to infinity and beyond. Before, I kind of had like a blue and pink color scheme, but repeating it, I just didn't think was going to be good. Originally, I was going to make him like red and blue. I like the color schemes of red and blue, but I decided to go with Buzz Lightyear. That's just kind of how I ended things off. So Zeke is like just so easy compared to Peace Walker. I mean, for like the for the machine guns, just kind of keep running in a straight direction. You're bound to like dodge all of them. Now, Zeke does have some attacks which can be kind of annoying, and it doesn't do them in this fight. This attack could be definitely annoying if your positioning is really bad. Honestly, wearing the swim trunks is probably the best for Zeke, just to avoid anything. The swim trunks is just good for any of the robot boss fights, because you get to run faster away from the machine guns. So when Zeke is over here, you have to go to the control panel away from Zeke. You don't go to the orange control panel that's in front of Zeke. You go here, and then you kind of put the target on it. You put yourself against a wall. You zoom in with the L button. You press triangle, then boom. Zeke is going to get blasted. And also, I spent a lot of time grinding to get the level 4 Law because I really fell in love with the Law, like, during this playthrough, and I wanted to use the best, like, leveled one for this mission. But what I really should have done is I should have just used the weapons I had on hand for Zeke, and I should have grinded for Peace Walker, because what I did in my original no damage video is that I actually grinded, I did, like, all the missions except for Zeke and Peace Walker, and I grinded specifically for weapons for those missions in particular. I didn't do that for this video. I did like each mission like, 1 to 33 in numerical order, but I really should have broke it up with Peace Walker specifically, because a level 4 Law with Peace Walker would have made that fight just a lot more, like, just less long, and probably would have, like, a lot easier. And also, like, Peace Walker, like, warrants it. Zeke doesn't really warrant it. Zeke is not very hard. Zeke has so many phases where it's just asking to get fucking pummeled, dude. And yeah, like, this music, beautiful. This moment sucks. I will say, in my original video, I had a lot of times where, like, I talked about Kojima like he owed me money, where I'd be like, Kojima, why would you do this? Fuck you, Kojima! I don't know if I really have the same energy, but there's certain things in this game's story that I'm not a big fan of. I definitely don't like that this whole final true ending is just Paz doing a bunch of, like, references to the other Metal Gear Solid games, like, oh, here's a moment from Metal Gear Solid 2, I'm taking it back. Here's the entire ending speech of Metal Gear Solid 4, like, that ending speech which Big Boss gives, because, he's had, like, an entire lifetime of context to, make sense of everything. Paz just fucking knows it straight from the get-go, like, fucking, what is it? Well, what time did Metal Gear Solid 4 take place in, like, 2014? Yeah, no, just like 40 years earlier, Paz just had all the context ahead of time. She just knew it, she just knew that, oh, so this is how the rest of the franchise is going to play out. It's so contrived. Like, what the fuck? But hey, I did it! I no-damaged all the main ops again in Peace Walker, but this time I got S rank for every single one of them, and for all the sneaking missions, I did a ghosting run. Hell yeah, man. The ghost run was pretty fun to go back to. I ran into new complications. I gave myself a lot more challenge. But yeah, I did the S rank for all of them, and now the final, like, mystery left of Peace Walker is, can I do the extra ops? And if I am going to do the extra ops, would you want to watch that video? I've been on the edge of my seat here, and I'll see you all then for my next No Damage. Shout out to my Patreon and YouTube members, Bedoofus, Saturny, Mo Boss, Walkman, Oscar29, Gelento, and Charlie514. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all then for the next No Damage. Peace out.